Ready? We're live. Good evening and welcome to the City of Wichita District 2 Advisory Board. I am Becky Tuttle and it is my privilege and honor to serve as Wichita City Council. Thank you all for joining us this evening. As we always do, we're going to call the meeting to order, and I would ask that the District Advisory Board members introduce themselves, which neighborhood they're representing this evening, and as we always do, your favorite thing about Wichita, but you can't repeat what someone else says. So we are going to start with Jennifer, who is joining us virtual.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer McDonald. I represent Dublin Court, and my favorite thing about Wichita is our election process. So I always feel like no matter if I vote early or at my polling place, the election process always runs smoothly in the city of Wichita. So I'm grateful for everyone who works towards those efforts.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I will pass that along to Election Commissioner Laura Rainwater, who used to be our community service representative for District 2 and 5. So thank you.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Chris?
Hey, hello, good evening, Chris Broderick, and I'm in Northbrook neighborhood near 37th and Woodlawn, and my favorite thing, not directly to the city, but is the zoo. Went out to the lights showcase they had recently and really enjoyed that. So they always do a nice job out there.
Thank you. And Chris, you were on my heart and mind on Saturday for Veterans Day. Got to attend the Veterans Day parade and had a great time. But thank you for your service to our country and for protecting our freedom.
Yeah, thank you.
John, you want to kick it off in person?
Sure. John Baker, Pine Meadows. And today I was walking into our Rotary meeting downtown, and I like the illuminations will be started at Thanksgiving Day. So
Awesome. Very cool.
All right, Roman Rodriguez. I live in the Sycamore Village, Waterford Edition, and I have a lot of great things that I can say about the city of Wichita. So I will narrow it down to our amazing public servants. We are with one tonight with Councilwoman Becky Tuttle, but we really have a lot of great people who choose to serve in a variety of roles. And I know we just went through the election. First, Jennifer brought that up, but we really do have some great public servants in our great city, and I'm grateful for all that they do for our community.
Thank you.
I'm Sam Lindeman, and I represent the Bonnie Bray Edition. And I guess what makes me happiest about Wichita right now is the basketball season is starting with a new coach, a new team, and seems kind of exciting.
Hi, my name is Faith Martin. I represent the East Ridge Neighborhood Association, and my favorite thing right now is Parks and Rec, because we had a great meeting, our neighborhood association meeting, a great meeting with John over at Boston Park, and we're just really lucky that we have the thing in the park, and there's been such great things done with this. I look forward to more cool things happening in that. Basketball park. Sorry, go basketball.
My name is Kim Johnson. I represent the Willamette neighborhood. And I guess since I can't do basketball,
Sorry.
no worries. I'm really grateful for this extended period of shorter season. This mild weather so late into November. Normally you would have had a lot of rain and cool by now. While we could use the rain, I really am enjoying this nice weather.
Yeah, we are in still phase 1 drought, so hoping that we will not enter the phase 2 drought. So we'll take the rain if we can just keep this weather. Yeah. Bruce.
I am Bruce Gass. I live and represent the Chisholm Creek HOA, which is at 37th and North Woodlawn. And I'm thankful for a lot of the construction that has been completed. But I have to say that my most favorite thing about Wichita right now is my wife believes that the city is saving money by putting all their traffic cones out on the streets rather than keeping them in a warehouse.
Orange cones and cranes
Orange
make
cones.
me happy. I know that. Orange cones and cranes make me happy. They mean progress, right, Sean?
Yes.
Right. All right, our fearless leader, last but
Oh.
not least.
Teresa Beasy, I'm your Community Services Representative for District 2. I actually live in District 5.
Sorry.
so-
Just kidding.
I'll tell Councilmember Friday. My favorite thing about Wichita right now is just being able to be outside and go to our parks, walk around, ride around. The fall foliage is just gorgeous, and I love being outside this time of year.
Thank you everyone for sharing, for introducing yourself. Here we go. So first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for November 3rd. It's approval of the agenda for November 13th, 2023. I would entertain a motion to approve.
I so moved.
Thank you. Second by Tim. All those in favor, aye.
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 Thank you. Gotcha online. Anyone opposed?
Hi, I missed the meeting.
That we're on the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
You gave the agenda. You're giving the agenda?
Yes.
Cool, awesome. Now, for John's sake, no, in this agenda, as this is approval for minutes from September 11th, 2023. We did not have a DAB meeting in October. So all those in favor, and just remember, if you weren't here, we would appreciate if you would abstain for the permanent record. So all those in favor say aye. Anyone-
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed?
I abstain.
And Bruce abstains.
And abstention over here.
Abstention from Roman.
Abstention.
We missed you when you weren't here. All right, is there anyone here in the audience today who is here to speak to an off-agenda item? An item that is not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna cruise right through. Staff reports, library. So around this time, I always like to remind people that Rockwell is Santa Claus's favorite library. Why is that? It's the only one with a fireplace. But maybe not for long after the renovations, right? Okay, thanks for being here today. Name,
Yes,
position, and favorite thing about Wichita.
yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Clary. I'm the manager here at the Rockwell Branch Library. Favorite thing about Wichita is the wonderful bike trails and walking trails we have, and this time of year is one of my favorites. So
Thank you.
love it. Just gonna share a few things that are happening at the library this month in November. November is Kansas Reads Approved Preschoolers Month, and this is a statewide event through the State Library of Kansas. It encourages parents, caregivers, librarians to read one chosen title to children ages 0 through 5 during the month of November. This year, the book is My Heart Fills with Happiness by Monique Gray Smith. This book has illustrations by celebrated artist Julius Flett, serves as a reminder for little ones and adults alike that we should reflect on and cherish the moments of life that bring us joy. We have several great programs throughout this month at several library locations your preschoolers and you can participate in. Visit wichitalibrary.org/pre-K for more information. The library's new book bus is hitting the road this month. Thanks to a grant from the Kansas Health Foundation and administered through the Wichita Public Library Foundation, the book bus will pop up in areas of Wichita without direct access to a library and bring a small collection of books to kids and adults. We also want to give a special shout out to local artist Lindsay Kernodle, who was hired to create the beautiful bus wrap for us. Her artwork will be seen all over Wichita. If you'd like to learn more about the book bus or request an appearance at your event, visit wichitalibrary.org/bookbus. November is National Novel Writing Month. It's a chance for seasoned or new writers to start writing the next great American novel. The library has a program from 2 to 4 p.m. every Saturday in November at the Advanced Learning Library downtown to help motivate writers to keep moving forward. And finally, all Wichita Library locations will be closed for the Thanksgiving holiday. We will be closing at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, November 22nd. And we will be closed all day Thursday, November 23rd, and Friday, November 24th. However, the library's digital collections of ebooks, audiobooks, digital magazines, streaming movies, and research databases will be available 24/7 online at our website, wichitalibrary.org. So thank you, everybody. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? And Jennifer and Chris, we're watching you online in case you have any questions, we'll buzz you. Yes, Chris.
Would you repeat that website for the book bus?
Sure, Book Bus is wichitalibrary.org/book bus.
O-R-G?
O-R-G, like organization. Yeah.
Okay,
/book bus,
okay,
all one word.
thank you.
I don't have a question, I just wanna say thanks, and if you guys aren't aware, the Wichita Library has some amazing election resources on there. Just so great, I didn't realize it was on there till like maybe September, but so good, so thank you to whoever put all that together.
Sean Jones, our wonderful communications.
Yeah. He's amazing. I'm gonna take one point of privilege. I was very fortunate to be asked to represent council on November 3rd. We had a day-long strategic planning for the library.
Yes.
Our strategic plan has now expired, and so looking at next steps and what the future of the library can be, and it was a really fascinating process, how a facilitator led us through it. We'll have other sessions, but more to come on that, and if anybody wants to leave more, reach out anytime. And then I'm very excited about the book bus. I grew up with Bookmobile coming on my street as a kid, but I'm very passionate about literacy, and I'm very passionate about early learning. As many of you all know, the #1 predictor of adult health is 3rd grade literacy. The #1 predictor of adult incarceration is 3rd grade literacy. And so making sure that our kids have resources to be able to be good learners and good readers can really have an impact on the rest of their life. So thank you for what you all, it really is impacting the next generation of Wichitans.
Yes. It's a wonderful opportunity and it's able to do it. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you. We'll see you in December.
Right.
Okay, have a good night. Wichita Police Department could not join us this evening, but they are sending a written report. I know some of you like to have these updates for your HOA meeting, so Teresa will send it tomorrow, even in advance of putting it in the minutes. So thank you in advance, Teresa. Fire,
Do this.
name, position, and your favorite thing about Wichita, please, sir.
My name is Terry Gresham. I'm Battalion 3 over here on the east side of town. I have 2 other cohorts that work on the C and B shift, so I'm A shift battalion chief over here. Favorite thing, my favorite thing is probably my guys that work for me, tell you the truth, because I couldn't get the job done without them, and that's probably my favorite thing. So I'm gonna give you guys information, because I know we didn't do the October meeting. And I didn't have enough of these, might just take a look, or you guys can scan through later, but pass around. I didn't get enough of them made, my apologies, I didn't really know how many you wanted to make for, so. But I'm gonna go over kind of our numbers that we had, and then a few other things. In October, which October is gonna be September, that's gonna be the numbers that usually get put out in October. Because we're always a month behind, but in September, we had 23 investigations for fires. Total of damage for the fires that were investigated was $452,000. I don't believe we had any fatalities or anything in September, and we only had 1 fire in this side of town, or that, one fire that was major enough that we ended up having an investigation on. Usually we don't call out investigators unless it's a known arson or we can't figure it out, that there's so much damage and then we can't come to a conclusion on our own. We'll still have always the minor fires, the cooking fires and everything, but usually with those, we don't call out the investigators, and the damage is usually pretty minor on those. October, we had 20 fires investigated. Total damage citywide was $728,760. We did have a fatality fire over here at 8165 East Central at the apartment complex over there. And I can answer any questions on that if you guys have any too on that. We did also have another fatality, and I'm not sure if this is in District 2 or just on the border. Should have been Sunday morning at 1715 North Fountain. So I think it's right over by WSU, so I think it's just kind of right there on the edge. It's in District 1, but we did have one over there. I don't know many details on that. If you have any questions on the East Center one, it's at the apartment complex over there. It's kind of behind a donut shop. briefly, what I can give you is crews arrived on the scene on that. They had heavy fire rolling up on the stairway that goes up. Everybody kind of knows on apartment complexes, there's one way in, one way out. So with apartments, it's always a challenge for us, especially if it gets into the stairs. This was in the stairwell going up, firefighters arrived on scene. They made a second alarm before the engine even turned the corner and go into the driveway. They said they had fire coming out of the roof, which in the end, the stairway there is built with like a roof around it. So that people are going up the stairs and not getting rained on, so it just acts as a chimney. So the fire had started there and came up, that's what it looks like to us. At least to the crews on scene. As the first crews got on scene, they started putting it out and they pushed up the stairs, and then they ended up having the stairs collapse on them from up above. So they ended up calling a mayday, crews had to back out or back away. Get a little bit things better under control when we have that. We had a few firefighters who had the stairs fall down on top of them. So then they backed out, went back to work, and then they ended up finding the victims. Oh, if you listen to the radio, it doesn't seem very long, but I believe it was like 12 minutes in, we're able to find her in her
What was the cause?
don't know yet. Haven't been told anything on that yet.
I requested a meeting with Chief Sloan, and we went over the case, that's tragic.
Yeah, it's tragic, yes, sir.
Were they older apartments? Don't the new fire codes require more than one exit?
No, on even new apartment complexes, they don't necessarily require 2 exits. Not that I know of, no. And
Isn't that kind of counterintuitive?
well, yeah, you would think to a certain degree. A lot of the older ones are grandfathered in, so that's where we're at on that. A lot of the newer ones, even when you have 2 exits, it still can be an issue because most of the time their door, they don't have 2 doors like we do at home usually. So that's why we run into that same problem. Because you're still going out to the front and you're still cut off one way or another, if it's in the stairwell. Or usually if the stairwell smokes up. Some advice I'd like to give on people, or if you know people who live in apartments, try to go to a window. It's really delicate on this. I mean, if you break a window and then you are at your window, we can see you easier, if that makes sense to you. We can come to you quicker if we can see you. It's always a challenge for us, because I mean, we have to search all the apartments. So it's just a matter of how many crews we can get up there working all at once. And it also depends on how crews arrive on scene. So if you're at a window, if you break a window, you can at least be hanging out a window, hang a blanket out a window. Do anything like that to catch our attention, and then we know, and then we can target that window as soon as possible. Our biggest problem is when we can't target things, we have to go systematically, and we'll usually try to go to the top apartments further down. But we also have to target where that fire started, and we usually try to get from there and search away from that to the least dangerous areas. And remember, smoke is what kills. Most of our victims don't ever get burned. They always just die from the smoke. So that's why we say if you can go to a window, and then even if you were at the bottom of the window and, you know, God forbid you pass out, but you're gonna fall there. And then when our crews come in through the window, it's gonna be bam, we find you, and then we can get you out. So it's a tough situation on everything that happens in those, and we have a little bit more experience with it, so probably we're not gonna get as excited about stuff that when you don't. When you probably never had opened up your front door and found fire sitting there, it's pretty devastating to see. So that's just the only advice I could really give if you ever are in that situation. And even at your house or anything like that, you can do the same thing. Break a window, scream at us, holler at us when we get there. Always close your doors. Close your
Not
bedroom
turning
doors.
on fans to exit the smoke.
No, that's gonna beat it even more.
Okay,
Yep, yep. My biggest advice would be close your bedroom door and take a window or whatever room you can do it. And you don't have to take it off, but take a window so you can make some kind of contact with us if you can't get out. And then we can get to you the fastest that way.
Are there any smoke detectors?
Yeah,
For the safest person?
I believe they do have smoke detectors there, and I don't know the whole story on how she woke up. You may have heard a little bit more than me. I didn't make the fire, I just talked to the battalion chief afterwards. We're gonna have a after action with you tomorrow, so I'll find out a little bit more from it. I've heard everything that the incident commander who was on scene, he talked to me about it and stuff, but I don't know it well enough to wanna give out details to.
Okay.
And it's still under investigation.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned smoke detectors. Thank you. Saturday, we all turned our clocks back. So hopefully you checked all the batteries in your smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors.
Correct.
And then as we're heading into the holiday season,
Mhm.
what are some tips that you might have for us?
Don't cook your turkeys in a fryer inside your house.
Or garage.
Don't warm your pizza up in the oven in the box.
Outside, so that'd probably be the biggest thing that we'll see. We're gonna always have cooking fires. Call before you go try to do anything. I mean, some people are gonna be, I mean, we would prefer if it's big enough, you come out of your house. But if you don't, even if you think it's not that big, just call. Even if you put it out and we come up on scene and you put your fire out because it was small, we're not gonna mind. We're not gonna get mad. That's our job. We can disregard everybody else coming in and send them home. So, yeah, and some people think, well, what's the charge? Remember, you don't get charged for us. We come, it's a service that's provided by the city of Wichita.
And don't forget too, if you're decorating for the holidays, Christmas lights, be careful with extension cords. People have more candles, people light their fireplaces, so just use extreme caution during the holiday season.
Yes, and water your tree if you get a real tree, otherwise it gets very dry. Watch out if you're old, like I'm getting now, get on a ladder. Cause you can have those issues, just make sure you're doing stuff correctly. Couple other things I'll go over since you're answering on, you're already going over. it.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Recruit class, we have 14 in the class right now, it's gonna graduate January 19th. So that'll be 14 other people coming out, we'll be out on the floor. I'm not sure how many we may have lost just due to retirements and stuff in that time, but I don't think we've lost that many. We have 2 fire trucks, 2 engines, and 1 truck that will be going up and inspecting here in December. We'll drive up to Wisconsin and inspect them before we take delivery of them and everything else. It's kind of
New
nice.
stuff?
Huh?
New stuff?
Yeah, brand
toys.
new engines and 1 truck. It's kind of nice, you go up there and you can catch things before they get here, just like buying a new vehicle. And they do all their stuff on not a conveyor belt, but it's on an assembly line. So there's always gonna be little things, paint, just different stuff, so we go over them pretty thoroughly. I got a handout here, actually. I'm giving everybody else too. Thank you. If you have extras, put them on the table, I'll leave these too. Yep. You don't have to put them down. All this is just kind of a little, get ahead system for the season. Talks about your furnace being inspected. We have a lot of calls for furnaces, just due to the smell. If we don't clean them or if we don't vacuum it out and then you turn on your furnace, we're always gonna get some kind of smell. You're gonna get a little bit of smoke that comes out. So it's always good to have it serviced, by the time it starts getting cold. Chimneys and vents. Biggest thing on chimneys, make sure you don't have the creosote. You'd be surprised how many chimney fires we make. Chimney fires for us are pretty. They're not routine. They can be difficult depending on the pitch of the roof and whether or not we can get a tower ladder where we can reach the chimney, or we're gonna have to climb up on your roof, which in the end causes damage to your roof. And a lot of times the chimney fires are gonna be contained to your chimney. Even with the creosote in there, it'll contain it to the chimney, but it will cause damage, especially on older chimneys that are made out of brick or clay. So make sure to get your chimneys clean. Fireplaces, if you're burning, make sure it's dry, seasoned wood. If you're burning wet wood, that's gonna build that creosote up more in your chimney, and it's gonna make it have more chances to catch on fire later. A couple other things, fireplace screen, have something around there or have your glass just so that you can make sure to catch anything. Metal container, this is probably one of our big problems is people will take their ashes and then they'll dump them in their trash cans outside. And then what do? They leave their trash cans next to the house. Make sure to put in some kind of metal container, set it out in your yard 10 feet from your structure. That way you can let your ashes cool down and then you don't have to worry about your house waking up in the middle of the night and your house is on fire. Talk to your kids, if you have little kids, grandchildren and such, make sure they stay away from the fireplaces. I know that was probably my biggest paranoia when my kids were young. Space heaters, pass around, make sure everybody get the ones that have the automatic shut off. If you have an old one that if it tips over, don't shut off, throw it away. Get one that you're able to, if it gets knocked over, to be shut off, especially if you have dogs, cats, you'd be amazed. My daughter has a cat who gets into everything. So make sure you just think about that. Portable heaters, plug it directly into an outlet, do not run it off of a extension cord. And then, like the council member said, check your smoke detectors, check your carbon monoxide detectors. Check them, put new batteries in them. Carbon monoxide detectors, just like smoke detectors, have a shelf life. A lot of calls that we go on to for carbon monoxide, the carbon monoxide is beeping, but it's just, no, it's just like what it is, does with smoke detector when the battery goes down. So we'll go on a lot of calls with that. It just ends up being the smoke detector, well, the carbon monoxide detector is out of date. They usually go bad. I would say recommend at least every 5 years to replace. Yes, sir.
If you have a ceiling fan in a room, does that change where you would put your smoke detector or your carbon monoxide detector? It stirs everything up.
It's still gonna stir it up, but it's still gonna get enough. They detect it. Oh, they just detect that minute amounts, so they'll be able to get it. My biggest thing with smoke detectors, we don't have enough. Even when they build a new house, you don't have enough smoke detectors. You know, yes, you want to kind of keep it away from your kitchen. It depends on how I guess you cook, but keep it away from your kitchen, and everything. But if you put multiple ones around your house, even if they're just the ones that are just battery and they're not hardwired, it's always gonna give you a little bit more notice, quicker notice. Because remember, if there's a fire, it's gotta come, especially if say you have a fire in the basement, it comes up, well, it's gonna hit the ceiling and it takes time to spread. So the more you have, the better chance you have of getting quick urban notice. And the only thing I was gonna say otherwise, I mean, I know the library is off, but we'll be here for the holidays. So we'll be at work, so you won't have to worry about that. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Tyler, did you get one of these? Could we have comms team share this information out? I think this is too good not to share with the rest of
Yes,
the
sir.
community.
I just want to tell you that I took some
Thank you.
foster care boys to #1
Mhm.
downtown, and they had incredible time.
Good.
There's 3 of them, and the guys were friendly. Now, they didn't let them go down the pole.
Yeah,
Now, they
yeah,
insurance reasons.
yeah,
But boy, they love those engines. They love the tour.
yeah.
It's awesome.
Oh, yeah, and it can be intimidating, at once when you go down the pole. I know I was stationed at one years and years ago. First time you go down the pole, I mean, you're going down 2 stories, so yeah, it can be intimidating, especially if you get out of the shower and you're wet.
Yeah.
This is not the most best experience.
The next Citizen Fire Academy in.
No, I have not heard anything on that.
We get notified, because I went through it, I'll keep my eyes open for
I
it.
do know, I did hear the other day that we are looking for land for 3 stations. I believe Station 18 is supposed to be relocated due to a highway project, is what I was told. It's gonna be located probably somewhere in that same area.
K-96 expansion.
Yes.
And it was supposed to start in 2024, and KDOT, the Kansas Department of Transportation, is delaying it until 2025. But we will get a brand new fire station in
Yep.
District 2 courtesy of Kansas Department of Transportation.
So that'll be moved, and I believe there's 2 more they're looking for out west.
Northeast or northwest, and
Yeah.
southwest.
So they're gonna get those, hopefully buy the land, and then we can get on the process of doing that. All right,
Thank you for your service.
no problem.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
safe.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you very much.
Yes, you have a good evening.
You as well. Park and Rec could not be here this evening. They've provided comments, so it will be in the minutes. And then Sean, Public Works and Utilities. How'd Paul get out of this?
That's a good question.
Sean Mattis, Chief Design Engineer for the City of Wichita. I'm just gonna run through the highlights.
Oh, no, favorite thing.
I'm an engineer, so traffic. and going through Dallas, Oklahoma City and Austin.
Oh, even Kansas City.
Even Temple, Texas, going through rush hour, we ended up diverting off the freeway, trying to go through residential neighborhoods, trying to get around it based on Google Maps, and it was not a lot of.
Oh, my goodness.
So, projects under construction in District Two,
And everybody has a copy, right? You got a copy? of it?
should,
Yeah.
but if not, I can.
Yep, we're good.
Stryker Sports Complex, the press box expansion, material procurement is in progress, construction to start in early December. Pavement preservation, the 2023 program, asphalt overlays, list of projects here, Woodlawn from 13th to 21st, overlays complete, crosswalks, marking remain to be installed, 13th Street from Woodlawn to Governor. Again, overlays complete, crosswalk marking is still to be installed. And then Woodlawn from Lincoln to Orem, overlay is complete. Microsurfacing, that 2023 program is complete. Crack seal is currently in progress, and those streets are listed there. The 21st Street from K96 down to 43rd, Central from Rock to Webb, Woodlawn from Harry to Lincoln, Perry from Greenwich 127, Perry from 143rd to a quarter mile west of 159, Pawnee from Rock to Webb, and then the residential streets. Just gotta look at the maps, there's too many to list. The localized repairs, isolated pavement issues are complete for the 2023 program. Redbud, I'm not gonna mention because we're gonna talk about tonight. 143rd, probably all really mention about that is we'll be coming to Deb, I believe in December is what we're shooting for, if it's not December, January. That's to reconstruct 143rd from Perry to Kellogg. That will tie into the improvements that KDOT is making on Kellogg. So we're in coordination with them, and that's part of what we're working on right now, trying to coordinate some stuff, how the two projects work together. Projects under design that are discussed with more or less all the district advisory boards just due to the nature of the project. The multimodal facility plans, 100% plans were submitted September 18th. Artist interviews were held on October 25th. So that project is being posted bidding. As far as the multimodal facility, which is right across from the new baseball stadium. K96 from I-135 to 21st Street. Public open house, the second public open house, looks like we're looking at February of 2024. What we're currently looking at, the second open house of that. Then Kellogg from K96 to 159th Street East. Construction is looking at starting in the fall of 25. We've seen some plans, so they're currently working through the planning process, creating plans, getting track maps and stuff like that right away. Utility relocation, we're working within on our utilities there for relocating the project. And then the North Junction is currently under construction. And with that, I will open up any questions concerning things.
So it went really fast, so
Yep,
you
I
said
did.
between Kellogg and Lincoln on Woodlawn was finished?
On which piece?
Woodlawn,
Woodlawn from Harry to Lincoln. It's in progress with cracks
and that you also said one from Kellogg to Orem
from Kellogg to Orem.
on Woodlawn.
Woodlawn from Lincoln to Orem and Woodlawn from 13th to 21st. The overlay's done on the 13th to 21st. They still have the crosswalk markings to do.
But for Orem
It's
to
overlays
Kellogg,
complete.
it says it's done,
It's Woodlawn, Lincoln to Orem.
right, but you're saying that's complete,
Yes, yes.
because the road is not complete, that's why everyone in the neighborhood said, when you go, ask about it, because there's still signs up. And there's still big cracks in the road, it kind of fell apart a little bit in the middle because of all the rain.
Okay.
So,
And
you
you
said done, I wanna make sure you.
that's
there's
just
no
Lincoln to
more-
Orem. You mentioned Kellogg, so I just want to make sure.
Oh, sorry, it's like Cottonwood is kind of where everything is
Okay.
messed up.
I can do some checking
Okay.
into that and see what's going on.
And if Sean, if you want to just email me, I'll make sure Faith gets the information.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
And how does one get a road request onto the 2024 pavement preservation plan?
You can start with us, we can relay it to them, there's a spreadsheet they use, so it's not necessarily taking your feedback necessarily directly. It's based on the condition of the existing and their model and how all that works together. There's only so much money to go around, depending on what condition of the street. Some people think that there's one or two cracks that their street should be done every other year, so I just throw that out. But telling us right now, I mean, we can relay it to our maintenance staff and they can look at it. If nothing else, we can get you a date, if it's not gonna be in that program, maybe a date of when it would be.
I think it's more of like, would anyone be able to come to a meeting where the neighborhood can talk about what it means to go from like a 4-lane Lincoln to a 3-lane Lincoln where there's a turn lane and bike lane, so we'd like to have like a community.
Will you email me and
Yeah.
then I'll coordinate
Yeah, yeah.
with Paul and.
We've been talking about it all year, but
Okay.
they said, bring it up. Bring
Please
it up.
do.
We're doing that right now on the 17th. I just took it to Dad last week. There's a gap between WSU and 135. It's a 4-lane. There's not traffic volume to be able to do it. There's 3-lane on-street bike lanes on both sides. If it's not something that's programmed in current CIP, typically when we would do it, would be with the maintenance project. And we would look at volumes at that time and look at conversion. Some of the existing 4-lanes are wide enough, actually. The lanes are really narrow. I'm not saying that's the case,
Sure.
but there was a section, I want to say of hydraulic that we looked at, there was a section of hillside that we looked at, they were like 9-12 feet. So you really can't have a 3-lane on-street bike lanes to fit, so what we just end up doing in those instances is going back to a 3-lane. I can tell you that they're different benefits, not everybody agrees with them, but I can show you a bunch of different data that shows the 3-lane is significantly safer than the 4-lane is.
That's why we're asking.
The volume difference, passing wise difference is not a whole lot different. And if you actually have a number of areas that you have turning movements, what you'll end up seeing is people don't use that center lane. So you end up with everybody in the outside lane more or less anyway, if they travel consistently, because they know not to get in that lanes. Specifically in certain areas, Waco downtown next to City Hall used to be that way. And everybody, when you came up, you were coming north in the morning, everybody in front of the Farm Credit Building, nobody would get in the lane. Unless you were turning to go to the Farm Credit Building or somewhere west of there, you didn't get that lane because you knew you'd be stuck on.
Great, thank you. I sure will. Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it very much.
I did a
I'm sorry,
question.
didn't see you.
The signage around Kellogg and I-135, is that within your purview? Is that
You're
KDOT?
talking on the freeway,
Yes,
that's KDOT.
that's KDOT. Okay.
If you have a concern, you can email me and I'll send.
I
it.
have already talked to them. This was gonna be a double dribble.
I almost thought they were replacing the signs in the future. I thought they had a sign project.
They may have,
They do,
but
they
who knows?
Yeah, sorry, they do have a sign project getting
ready
to go.
Because at night, some of the signs are do not exist.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason why, the reflectivity.
Right, I didn't know they had a expiration date on the reflectivity of some of those. I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you in a few. Next, we're gonna go into new business and item number 9 is Tyler. And you're gonna talk to us about wichita.gov redesign our website. I've said oftentimes, I love the city of Wichita. I love it with all my heart, but our website, wow, you can navigate through like the Centers for Disease Control website easier than you can the city of Wichita.
And that's a
So-
second try.
Yeah, so we are excited, and then this will make us much more transparent as well. So,
Fellowship Fund Communications Manager, my favorite thing about Wichita is all the stuff for my kids to be able to do.
awesome,
So
I
you
love that,
can't find something, it's not that you're not trying very hard, you're just not doing
right,
it. I won't spend a lot of time on the background, you all know, Becky, sorry, Councilman Bell.
Becky.
Becky.
Please.
Covered it. Search, not good, it's outdated, navigation's not great, we did surveys about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, search function, number 1, navigation was number 2, the top issues people would like corrected. City staff said the same thing, search function was number 1, and the way the site was configured came in number 2. So moving forward, this is only gonna be for wichita.gov, and we moved in Access Wichita with it as well. We have a whole reporting tool where it's 2 different websites, but it's all the same organization. We didn't think that would make sense. This won't be the library, that's, their own website. Transit right now is their own website. It will be our internal portal. We are now making it where communications will run the website. Before it was kind of like IT made the updates for everybody, but no one really controlled the content. So we're moving that, so now communications controls all the content on the website. Civic Plus, they're out of Manhattan. This is what they do government websites. So we've been working with them. Granicus was another one that we interviewed, but we all came away with Civic Plus, and they've been really great to work with so far. And we're looking at launching December 7th. A week ago, when I talked to the other 3 dabs, we were afraid we might not make that December 7th. We're having some issues with the surge, like what we're telling everybody we're gonna fix. And we can't launch without fixing that. So I think Friday, I got the great news that that's been fixed. So here is what the top of the homepage will look like. Look here, you got the search function front and center. So people can just hop around and search for whatever they need.
You don't have to search for the search.
No, you do not. I went into my boss's office about 2 years ago and I said, our website needs to function more like Google. He was like, great, you take it, you run with it. So I got this project. So, and then up top, we have navigation bars. So we switched it up a little bit, government, departments, business, community, how do I? Government, pretty easy, boards and committees. So there was no good place on our current website where you could see all the boards and committees. You'd have to dig through departments to find each one now. We have a page that lists them all out.
Cool.
You got city council, and then you can see kind of some of the sub items there below. You can go directly to agendas, presentations, initiatives, stuff like that. The only one of these we didn't do the sub navigation was on departments, is just that we have so many of them. That would have been way too much information to put on there. Business, that's doing business with city or economic development, license permit. One thing you'll notice on this site, we've tried to make it where different people look for different things in a website. I might go to business to look for license permits. Someone else might think, how do I? So you come over to how do I? And then you got license and permits right here. So we're trying to make it so it's very easy for people to, and intuitive for people to find what they need. We have some of our training stuff on here we still need to delete, but, and then community, just some things you might be looking for with the animals, animal control, against wildlife, good, but that's what it is.
Show me the DABs on there, would you?
What's that?
Show me the DAB.
The DAB?
Yeah.
So
Under
some of us,
government.
I will admit, we're still really active, we're still training, some of our staff. We got district advisory board right here. So you click on that, and you can also get to this from the city council page.
Okay, good.
Come here, we'll go to tab 2. And get all the information here that would be on the current site.
And notes and minutes and all that will be on there.
At some point, we're gonna get to that. Like I said, today, the staff just did the training, so we're not quite that far, but it'll be built out.
This is a notorious problem for federal government stuff.
Mhm.
But lots of times I, as a layperson, have no idea what you guys call something. So what have you done to improve that so that the layperson will eventually end up in the right place?
That's one of the things I think by bringing in communications to help with this, and we'll get this to what we tell people in the organization, explain it like you're explaining it to a 3rd grader. So and I fall victim to this too, we talk in acronyms and that sort of stuff. So we gotta be really conscientious of stepping back, looking, okay, can the ordinary person understand? My wife, who has no idea what our organization does, can she understand this? So that's, by having comms, we take that look at it and try to help departments word their things properly.
Okay. Do you have an acronym list and definition by any chance hooked up to this?
We do not. That's a great idea.
It is a great idea. That might help us get to where we want to go. So I might type in bad dog, okay? But the key word in your world is nuisance.
Yeah.
Dog.
Yeah.
But I don't know that.
Yeah. And that's something too with our search function, and over time with the analytics, we're gonna look at, you want to tag pages for what are people searching for and where are they getting, and then you try to tag those pages, so when they search for bad dog, animal control pops up or something like that. So that's another thing we're looking at.
And do you have something in there that says, this is the county, stupid, not us? Or this is the state, stupid, not us? Do you have anything like that in there?
Not, we have some interaction with the county, some joint departments. But as far as like, okay, this is a county service, we'd have to do a lot to build all that in there. That'd be a lot of information that people think we do. So it's trying to guess that.
I know at this kind of meeting, and as well as searching for the city, if I didn't have the education I get from being in here, I wouldn't have any idea who really controls what.
Yeah, that's an issue we run into a lot.
No, I have a comment, and I ran into this all the time because I spent almost 35 years in public service. People don't understand the meanings of words that we use. It's not just an acronym problem. It is not. I don't know how you come up with glossary terms, but people apply different meanings to different words, and almost every day of the week I'll be meeting with a member of the public, and I have to stop, pause, and make sure we agree on the definitions of the terms we use, because there are so many ways to interpret words and terms. I don't have a solution to that, but I point it out because it is something that we have to deal with constantly.
And I'll agree with that, working communications, I will pick on the police and fire department, they like to speak in like citizens and, you know, all their jargon and whatever code this and code that. General public doesn't know that, so we need to break it down one step further, so we try, but that's definitely an area where we can improve.
One word plan.
That was gonna be my question is, I didn't see, and maybe it was in the government and I missed it, but if you wanted to look up ordinances, you wanted to look up
Mhm.
policies, where would that be housed?
That's a good question,
Probably under each department, right?
Yeah.
You wanna look under which ordinance?
I know there's a place for it, I'm blanking.
Oh,
right
city
now.
code?
Is there a doing
Yeah.
business?
Yeah.
City code, there you
Yeah.
go.
City code.
Yeah, right here, you go. There we go.
Okay.
And then it goes out to another site we have called Unicode, that you can look everything up, sorry, I knew it was there, I just couldn't remember exactly.
So that would be for all for department policies, you have to click on each department. to
There
look
you
at
go.
the
Department
specific
That won't
policies.
be policy.
Policies won't be in the code,
Right.
that'd be in a different
That
place,
won't
yeah.
even be regulations. Ordinances create.
No, I know, I asked
Policies,
two
yeah.
separate questions,
Yeah.
one was ordinances and the one is like policy, so I'm thinking like police policy or
Yeah,
fire
those
policy.
are gonna be on their specific
Under-
pages, yeah.
Okay.
Ordinances would be under city code.
Yeah.
Policies would be under department.
But
I'm
again,
guessing.
the layperson won't know that.
Potentially, yeah.
Well, they can
That's why I was
follow
bringing it
the
up.
government
That's-
mental health.
Well, yes, ma'am, and you're wonderful at doing that too.
And that's why we're hoping the search function will help with that, you can type that in and it finds us out.
Okay, perfect.
That's another thing,
Thank
we
you.
were hoping to get something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I see several, highlighted circle icons that on the bottom and on the left, I'm guessing that based on the analytics of the current site, those are the things that most people go through.
Yeah, let me get going.
Okay, my apologies.
It's up there, fine. So one thing I will note one more time, that picture you might have noticed has changed. So we have it, so every time you come back and refresh the page, the image will change, so it gives you a little bit of a different look and feel each time. Over here, these buttons just kind of jump you around up and down the homepage here. And then, yeah, these buttons that you were getting at, just above the chat box, these are just, we're just kind of guessing right now using data we have from the current site, which is gonna change as navigation changes, but we're gonna monitor the data. And the places that people are going to most, we're gonna have those buttons be that, so it's like, okay, we know you're trying to get here. You wanna get in and get something done, we'll make sure you get there as quick as possible.
So if somebody's frustrated after December, we want to tell them, try it again and see if it's better.
Yeah, and we want feedback, there's gonna be something at the bottom of the
We'll
page.
give you feedback, but
Absolutely.
I
That's the only way we can improve.
understand.
Is with feedback, so. And then here, I don't know if you know, our current website, we have the banner that scrolls over and over and it can kind of give you a headache. So now there's some content on our website that just doesn't have a good home, this can be that place for it. Then you can sit there and scroll through and find different articles and then click on them and get more information.
So it's
Calendar.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna ask, go ahead.
Calendar function, this is something people have wanted for a long time that we
Yeah.
finally got. We haven't put a lot on there yet, I'll forward it here to December. You see, we have a lot more events in December, because we're launching in December. So this is any and all events across citywide. Then we didn't want to put events and public meetings, because we have so many groups, so many meetings. Public meetings have their own tab here. You can kind of scroll through and see different, and then if you want to view all events, click on this and it brings you to our calendar module. And I like to look at it in month view,
Thank you.
and then you can select a calendar, and let's say I don't wanna see all of these, I only wanna see, well, if we put DAB 2 on there yet, but I wanna see Wichita City Council, meetings and workshops, hit search. It's gonna bring me back to the month we're in, and then I will go forward. And it shows you just those meetings, and then you can click on it, get more information. We have a map, facilities map, so you can get in there and find what facility you're at, where, you know, where all that stuff is, parking information, that's what.
Yeah, districts also.
Yep, all
On
the
the
district
map?
advisory boards, so right
Is it
now.
printable?
What's that?
Is it printable?
I believe so. Yeah, you can print it right here.
Okay.
So, right here is just a list of the maps or the calendars we currently have that we've put in there. I'm still working with staff to build out all the events and those, but those, I'm sure we'll be adding more calendars. What's that?
This is awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, anywhere you're out on site, you click
Already
on the
so
logo,
better.
it takes you back to the homepage.
So I take it that what's on the calendar is what the city's been notified about.
Well,
Nobody's told them.
It's our events, it's not like community
It's
events,
not community.
it's
Oh,
city hosted like
Park and.
Cowtown, Park and Rec.
Botanica.
But if the city was involved with some meeting, it would be on.
Yeah, yeah, if it's a city sponsored meeting or a event, it should be on that calendar, so. Yep. Scroll down, you're gonna have mayor and council on the homepage now as well, so. That's one thing, people are coming like, I wanna know who my elected officials are, boom, right there on the homepage. Something we started doing, with council meetings is we do a council recap. So we figured why not put that right here on the homepage. It's a quick little overview of what the agenda items were and what the vote was, what the outcome was, that sort of thing. Below that's engage with us. I'm sure many of you already know what forum is, so I'm not gonna cover that. We just have that highlighted so you can engage with that page here on the home screen. And then I mentioned the facilities map. Click on this here and it takes us to our facilities. You can do a list view or a map view. And here is most of the facilities. I think we got them all put in there. This is everything.
Holy
Every
smoke.
park, library, fire station, police station is all on here. And then you can search facilities. So I don't want this. I only want fire stations. And then hit search and it shows you just the fire stations. And then you can click on each one of these and get more information once we kind of build those out a little bit further.
On that feature where you're searching for things, I'm thinking we were looking for a park to go to the other day with my kids. Can you, I mean, is it narrowed down to just park or
Sorry.
certain features within parks?
No, sorry, I didn't mention that. So in park, there's a lot of features like benches, walking paths, nature trails. If we have tagged that park as one of those things, it will be
Okay.
on there. You can say, I want to see everything with a bench. Yeah, there's
Everything with a playground, everything with a splash pad.
Yep.
Okay, very cool.
Let me see, I think we're pretty much done with the homepage here, and then down at the bottom, we're gonna put a email to webmaster, so I'll get those nice emails saying, hey, you gotta fix this. So,
Going back, you said Access Wichita will be no more.
I'm getting
Okay.
there. Yep. We do have a chat bot now, so we have a chat function, and people have complained that it takes a while to get through to someone from the chat, so we're hoping this chat bot, it pops up and you can have these options, and this will be data driven again. And we can make these whatever, so before you even type anything in, hey, how do I search for a warrant? I was surprised that was our number 2 search item was warrants. So we can put that there, and someone clicks on it.
Dad's checking out boyfriends, probably.
You know I will.
Yeah. Most wanted, I checked that one too.
So I can type in payment on a water bill, and there was an option that popped up, I just went ahead and hit enter. But this here, it has a answer that it's an AI tool that will scan our entire website or any other websites we assign it to, and looks for an answer. And then if you don't like that answer, you can upvote it or downvote it, and then that helps us figure out whether it's doing its job and we can train it to be smarter. So, I'll start that again, and then we have 80 built-in responses that it can anticipate, and you can click on one of these as you're typing out and get more information. So another thing we have here is we can change the language of the entire site.
Wow,
So,
cool.
right there, it makes it so it's more accessible to everybody.
You have Afghan on there?
I'm sure it probably does.
Because we got a lot of immigrants now.
Yeah.
That's
So
fantastic.
now I gotta get it back. right.
Well, that's gonna help a lot of people.
Yep. So, got a few more pages here to show you, and then I'll just open it on up.
It's so we held anything back.
So I talked about search function, chatbot, so we're getting to Access Wichita. So we wanted that all on the homepage. I didn't mention one of those buttons right now is report an issue. You can also go to the how do I at the top. And there's report an issue. So we have this page and there's now an app with it as well. It's called the City of Wichita app. It's gonna give us the ability by calling it that, rather than report an issue, we can expand it to other things in the future by calling the City of Wichita. But this is basically what the app will look like. You can have animal control issues, our postal service, forestry, public works, park and recreation, water and sewer, water, environmental health. So you can come on here and there's report illegal dumping and storm drain. And then just set it on the map wherever you want to put it, or you can come up here and type it in. And then just hit confirm location. You can add a photo if you want to. Put a description in.
Oh, yeah.
Confirm details, and then you can submit it. And then hit next, and it'll submit it, and be done. I'm not gonna submit that, so they're not chasing down nothing.
And
This is on,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and this is on a desktop, I assume this is
This
gonna
is-
be just as mobile friendly.
Yeah, so this site.
And access with some kind
Man,
of.
you guys are like on it tonight. No, everything we do on this site is built to be mobile friendly as well, so our staff, we can't screw it up. I'm a new website, but no matter what we do, it's built to adjust to be mobile friendly.
Awesome.
And then even without our app, there's stuff that we can't put in the app for different reasons to report. We're putting that all on one page now. So you have ethics complaint, non-discrimination ordinance, just some other nuisance reporting that goes to the county, but we're offering that since it's also a joint city department. So just some other things on here to fill out. So,
Now, is forestry the key word for tree trimming?
tree trimming, tree removal, tree planting.
Is under forestry.
Thanks,
Okay.
Folks,
Folks may not pick that up.
Back on the reporting piece, when someone submits some of those, there are some things that are very timely. For instance, if you see water bubbling up from the street, so you know there's a broken line. Are those things routed to certain departments or people that are like, you know, some things don't require immediate attention and some things do?
yeah, so it's routed into our work order system, so I can't tell you 100% what that is, but I'm sure people are getting these in real time, because when I did the testing, some of them they were confirming almost immediately, so it's tiny to Lucidity, it's their system.
Okay.
This is fine.
Or you can text your council member photos as you did.
Well, I did. I couldn't find on the website. I was driving home and there was water bubbling up underneath the street.
So I immediately got a phone and. all
Which
public
I
works
know,
and-
so how do I report that
It's awesome.
it's after hours? I ended up just texting a very wonderful city council.
The key will be is, I hope you're collecting data on your response time.
Yeah,
By the time somebody submits something, to the time the right department responds.
Yeah.
That would be a key piece of data to keep everybody alive and well and willing to talk to us.
yeah, that's a great idea. So that's outside of just the website, that involves so many other things, but it's a very good point. I'll make sure to note that and. bring that
I
up.
have done this with KDOT.
Yeah.
And I ended up talking with the engineers, texting me, very quick, very pleased.
You have a question? Do you have design council and like bike ped advisory boards, those types of involvement on here as well?
Yeah, they're all under government, and then you come over here to boards and committees.
Okay,
And every single board or committee you can think of is
Oh.
listed down here.
just checking, thank you.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned an app.
Yeah.
So there's the current, maybe this is the current Wichita Report app.
That's going away.
That's gonna go away and you're gonna replace it with something new.
City of Wichita.
Okay. Okay.
We're gonna roll out a marketing campaign in January. We're kind of doing a soft launch in
Okay.
December to work at any issues. We don't want to promote it, and then,
Sure.
you know, we do everything we can to anticipate, but something might come up after we
Mhm.
launch. So we want to work that out before we send it to the masses.
I love that, you know, the citizens can be able to report different things as they see them. I've used the app for, you know, stoplights that are at, so green light is not working or those types of things.
And one of the cool things on here is because Evergy does streetlights, not the city. So it prompts you on here, I think there's a report a streetlight out.
Mhm.
It says you cannot report this here, contact Evergy, here's the number.
Very good.
From blue lights.
Take your code.
You can create an account on here, so basically I'm just sending this screen here, you can log back in, or you can create an account. And then with that, you can come over here and it can remember autofill some of your forms and stuff like that and remember certain information. But then you can also sign up for alerts. So anytime we add something to a calendar, we can say we want that calendar invite to a council meeting, we want it 3 days in advance to send out a notification to everyone who either wants an email or SMS message notification. Same with any of our news releases or newsflash or newsletters, whatever we come up with, people can sign up for alerts to just those. You want just council meetings, you're not gonna get every other calendar invite, just those council meetings, so you can customize that as well. Kind of talked about the improved navigation, ADA compliance, that's something big that we were really wanting to focus on this year. I'm just gonna have to click on the link here to get there. So we are not able to get this, we have a tool called Audio Eye, and we can't have it on our site until we actually go live, but Emporia has it. And it's this little icon right here, stands for accessibility, you click on that. And then you can highlight different information on the screen. Gives you different options for that. You can change the contrast, back up to the top. Just whatever is easier on your eyes to see. You can make the text size bigger, get where it's unreadable, but one thing I thought was pretty cool is the font. It changes the font type, so it's easier for you to read. If it's one font's harder, you know, maybe another font's easier for you to read. This dyslexic one I thought was pretty cool. It weights all the font at the bottom, so it's easier to read for someone who's dyslexic. There's a guide on here, says you're reading information, you can guide across like that. There's also a window. So and one of the cool things is if you are on a public computer and you exit out of your screen, it will not remember those settings, so the person coming in behind you won't see that you were using that tool. And then it's easy for staff to update. Like I said, communications is taking ownership of the content of the website, and that's going to be my primary duty moving forward. But staff will now be able to update things very easily, almost just click and drag to update information. So a lot easier to keep content relevant and up to date. Back to the ADA compliance, I will mention it, the Audio Eye, it is constantly scanning our site for any ADA issues. So it will alert us, hey, this does not meet ADA compliance, we need to fix it. It will fix it if it can on its own. If not, it alerts us when we have to fix it. In our training, we were taught with photos to give proper descriptions for each photo for the audio readers. Right now, it might just say Watson Park. Well, it doesn't really describe what's going on in that picture. So every photo we upload, we have to do a detailed description of what's in that picture. Nothing really new. We do have forms, but with that, we can do online forms with this system. I talked about the calendar function, facilities map, and then something just kind of fun, opinion polls. That's for you. So, not really something that's going to be scientific or we could really use a lot of weight, but it could be a fun way to engage people. So, with that, I know I covered a lot. I'll stay for any more questions.
Just on the various city pages, so it's like police or fire again. So if there's ways that citizens have interacted with those specific pages, will they be modifying their content to be more user friendly? Like, I wanna go to a specific department within the police, or I wanna figure out where a certain battalion is, or I wanna make a complaint, or I wanna tell them how great they're doing, or whatever it is.
So with that, as far as like how the page is laid out content wise, there's a little bit, we think some improved navigation in there, but I think that's just working with each department and finding out.
And that's probably months down the road, because that's a lot of content to update.
I think we had over 700 pages we had to move over, but we are trying to make it more streamlined and, you know, put things together where it makes sense.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah.
Tyler, we've got a question in the chat. Does this tie right to Access Wichita page 2?
Let's start to
Does this tie right to the Access Wichita page?
Access Wichita will be going away. So Access Wichita will be live until we launch the app and it's out there, and then we're going to shut off the reporting part of Access Wichita. But people will still be able to track any requests they had in Access Wichita until they are completed. And then once all those are completed, Access Wichita will go away and it'll all be on SeeClick Fix or the other side.
You said that you had to create an account. Is there going to be a profile as well with that account? For example, if I want to use the website to pay my water bill and get tea times, that when I log in, it's going to have, hey, here's your previous action. Is this what you're wanting to do or something else? You would need
It's not really going to do that because unfortunately, I wish we could have it where it was one account for all of that, because golf system, that example, that's on one system. They have their own content manager or a customer service system over here. So you're gonna have one account for that, unfortunately. Same with the water bill, it's on a completely separate system. This is more for just website content, signing up for notifications, that kind of account. You don't have to create an account to look through the website. That's if you wanted notifications.
I just don't like typing in my account number each time.
Yeah, no, I get that, and that's something I wish we could do. It's just very hard to pull off with all the different systems we have.
Well, I hold out hope that integration over time will bring all those together.
Yeah.
So it's a cool website. Awesome.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank
Great
you.
job. You're the district now, right?
Yep, District 6.
Okay, be safe. Tell them we said hello.
Will do.
And tell them we're sorry they don't live in District 2. Oh. Just kidding. Thank you, Tyler. Great job. Great job. All right, next, tree canopy. Hashtag forestry, that's. And you have a handout here. Regarding the policy. All right, name, position, favorite thing about Wichita.
Ted Helms, principal planner, my favorite thing about Wichita is, the potential in the city. There's a lot of great things going on, I think there's a lot of potential, I think everyone kind of, there's a buzz in the air. I feel like people can feel it out. So, I'm here to present on the proposed, tree, policy, and so again, that's policy, so not an ordinance. So that's really to help us, internally, how we, operate. So one of the things that this is really for, or helping with, so it's kind of twofold, and we'll get into that. Sean will be presenting, a second part. This is a bit of a tag team, presentation here. So I'll mostly be focusing on forestry efforts. So the main goal is to protect the existing tree canopy. It's one of our most valuable infrastructures that we have. We currently are operate in forestry terms. They operate on a cycle, and they do plantings on about an 8-year cycle, or not 8-year cycle. There's 8 different sections that they end up rotating through when they do focused planting efforts. So they don't just focus in one spot, but they do try to go through it and hit different sections a little bit harder than others. And they've been working on kind of this method of these different sections and kind of what they're going through for about 60 years. So it's something that we're trying to put forward and something that they already do. So a lot of this is going to highlight or emphasize stuff that's already happening, but helps put it in writing as an official policy. And the main thing here is to increase and grow our tree canopy. One of the other things is to diversify our tree canopy. A lot of trees that we have, the Siberian elms, they are dying, and that's one of the things that we had a very huge, large percentage of our tree canopy are the Siberian elms, and so a diverse tree canopy really helps with that, kind of helps us in the long term. And we know that these policies and goals that we have are going to take years and years to come, but the goal is to make a better Wichita for in the years to come. So again, as mentioned, this is really for internal, this is for the city mostly, and it is for city property and city right of way. So it's not people's homes, people's properties, anything like that. That's city of Wichita property and right of ways. So one of the guiding tools that we have in this is the NASA study. They came up with this climate change report, and it's very valuable. You can just Google Wichita like NASA climate change report, and it's a wealth of knowledge and provides a lot of in-depth research, and it shows the relationship between trees and people, and more specifically, it shows how heat affects individuals, because trees and shade, and that's really a huge impact that trees have is providing shade and cooling harsh environments, trying to cool things down. The report here, and we'll get into this in a moment, you'll see it on map, but it locates and points out where the hardest hit areas are in Wichita. So One of the things that it has to do with is, it looks at age, it looks at, race, it looks at, economic impact or economics, income, and how you may be, individuals that maybe fit some of those categories or in some of the more vulnerable locations or people, how they are being affected by trees. Is it equitable across the city? How can we help make sure that we're not just planting trees in places that maybe it's super easy to plant them, but how are we making sure that we're planting them in places that can really help serve and make a huge impact to Wichitans? So again, as I kind of mentioned earlier, there's a relationship, or there's a process in here that revolves mostly around like forestry efforts, and there's also capital improvement or capital projects that Sean will talk about here in a moment. And it talks about kind of pushes into a little bit more on public engagement, how can we engage the community, processes for doing that. Turn it on. There.
Yeah.
Perfect. So the NASA report, and so you'll see here on with the different districts. In here, you'll see there's little numbers in each of these little red boxes. So those are the 17 at-risk census tracts that were identified through the NASA study. And those were where heat exposure and vulnerability of those that live there intersect. Those numbers are related to the census tract. So you'll see there that number 51, there's not 51 different ones that are the at-risk census tract. That's what is identified in the census. So these are the areas that are hit hardest the most due to lack of our tree infrastructure. You'll see that a lot of these places, when you go there, you may not feel in the public right of way, maybe it doesn't feel that bad, but it shows up on the map. And part of that is because this study also looks at on properties. So the different owners, different businesses and things like that, you'll know kind of in that kind of cluster towards the south there, that there's a lot of industrial developments down there. So that could be a reason why. But we're going to try our best to make sure that we are also putting trees into those places, because there are people that live down there, just because we're trying to make an impact where we can. And again, within what we can control within the city right away with city property. So doing the best that we can to make a difference in these areas. So the city will prioritize these 17 high-risk census tracts. Some of those efforts are actually already ongoing. I'll bounce back here real quick. So number 4 there, in the middle, yeah, you kind of see right here, number 4. That's an area that we're already focusing on, and that forestry has already looked at even before we adopted this policy. So it's good news that we are already getting off on a good foot with attacking one of those census tracts. We aren't going to be diverting all of our funds just to these tracts, and we're still going to do things across the whole city. We're just going to be putting a higher percentage of trees into those tracts, because it'd be a bit foolish to just focus on these tracts and then let the other parts of the city just kind of decline. So trying to make sure that this is a covered and wide-ranging effort. Again, as I mentioned, some of this has already started. So planting in Census Tract 4 is already starting. And the goal is to communicate these activities through social media and direct communication. Forestry already does that. They make every attempt that they can. If there's a right-of-way tree within your right-of-way, I guess, outside your house, try and make every effort to engage with that person. Sometimes if a tree really has to come down, if it involves infrastructure, very important infrastructure, sometimes they have to make that call, but they are going to, and will continue to make direct communication as much as they can with homeowners. I will point out that we are using this as a metric basis. We will continue to track these, the Lucity and different work orders and things like that to help measure performance. So that's one thing that's part of this report is having a, Gary Ferris, the arborist, and he presents to the park board every month about the different tree planting efforts that they already go through, but having an end of the year report to help keep us on track is important. If you can't measure your metrics, then how do you know going in the right track? So that's one of the benefits or things that we're putting actually in writing and we'll do with this policy, should it be adopted. I'll turn it over to Tom.
I'm gonna talk more about capital improvement projects. Most of what's in the capital improvement program are public works and utilities, especially the impact trees or could possibly impact trees. So when we design our capital improvement projects, typically what we'll do is we'll hire a design consultant and go out and get a survey. We will come to district advisory board, typically have a public open house of some sort prior to either at the DAP or a week or two before somewhere outside, depending on what type of facility you're talking about. So what we do with the design concept is we estimate what we think true removal is going to be. We don't have construction limits, all those type of things figured out completely at that date. So we will put typically, and I'll show you a couple of times, so we'll put an X on trees that we think are going to be a good project. One of the components of this tree policy is to bring those plans or updated plans back at a later date. So you're gonna see the project again, more from the plan perspective of, okay, here's what we actually think now is going to be, more when we're at that 80%, 70% set of plans. We have a much better idea of what it should be. Part of our projects too typically will involve a tree planting plan. So not only will we be potentially taking out some trees, we will be adding new trees back in. Are they the same size? No. If what we're gonna plant is a 2 to 3 inch caliper, some of that's viability. If you plant anything bigger, the viability of it, unless you're gonna do a lot with it, spend a lot of money to try to invest in it, it becomes harder once you get much larger than that. So this is gonna be a project by project basis. We will have landscape architect with our design team. We will have the city's landscape architect group involved with that. It's Tim, and our city forestry department to look at trees. There are times we went out and had Gary go out and look at somebody, he says the tree's not in good shape. Even if you can save it, even if your project doesn't hit it, it's gonna be dead in a couple years anyway. So the things like that we can relay to people if they are concerned about some of the trees that we are moving. The policy establishes criteria based on size and number. And again, I talked about the public engagement component. We haven't figured out exactly how all this stuff works, but we're gonna bring it back to the district advisory board to talk through once we get farther along, so we can better illustrate what we're actually going to do. I'm gonna go into a couple projects. I'm probably actually gonna come up here to the board, so I can point some different things. So this is a section of 135th Street out west. 13th Street, just off screen over here. Central is about 3/4 of a mile down that way. You can see typically what we'd like to do is we'd like to have the sidewalk at the right of way line for a couple different reasons. One of the reasons is that helps people identify where the public right of way is and where their private property starts. Because typically if you put it, those are butting up to each other. So if you have a driveway and you have a sidewalk section, an area anywhere from 4 to 6 feet wide, typically it's considerably flatter. Could be 10 if you have a multi-use path going through your neighborhood. But what you'll end up with is that's the right of way. Now, obviously, if you're gonna do something, spend a bunch of money, you should go out and hire a survey to have that done. But to give you an idea of just a good rough estimate of where that property line is going to be, that's typically gonna be your sidewalk section through it. You can see in this location what we're actually doing. We're pulling it away in this location because of some poles, but then we're pulling it right to the back of curb to try to save some of the existing trees that this newer, I'll say newer, it's probably 20 years old now, subdivision planted when they, shortly after they were developed. These are still probably only about 4, maybe 5 inch caliber. Some of them are pretty good shape. Some of them have had some damage over time. And then you can see on the east side, so on the downside of the screen, I should have mentioned that north is this direction. The downside of the screen, we are also pulling the sidewalk away from the right of way to protect those trees. So we're trying to protect it as much as we can. Some of it depends on though, even how much we're gonna over the road. Typically, when you go from an asphalt mat to curb and gutter, asphalt mats, when you have it on the county, you have ditches on each side. Asphalt, there is no edge there, it's just asphalt comes to a stop, and you have a shoulder or you have a drop off, one or two. So when we convert these, typically you're dropping the road anywhere from 2 to 3 feet. And that's for a couple different reasons. One of them, you want everything to drain over the curb gutter to get into the storm sewer that's greater. The other part of it is you have a 6-inch curb on top of your road you didn't have with the asphalt mat. And to be able to get the grade you want from the property line to there to make sure it actually does drain out, you're typically looking at somewhere between a 2 to 3 foot drop from that roadway. Typically, when it's asphalt mat, the roadway is kind of built up, ditch are down here, so if you get water in it, hopefully it doesn't go across the roadway. Okay. This is in the same general vicinity, but it's 13th Street just north of there. We actually met with this HOA on numerous different occasions. What we ended up doing here was trying to weave this sidewalk in throughout these trees to minimize the impact of this area. You can see we still took out a decent number of trees through here, and even here, and even some of these here. But we met with them, and when we went out on site, prior to starting construction, we actually met with the HOA and marked the trees that we were going to remove. This was a significant concern of theirs during the design process. We actually met with them 2 or 3 times to discuss this. Ideally, you don't want to have the sidewalk next to the roadway. Ideal situations comfortably. It doesn't feel it's comfortable with walking down it. But we're trying to mix and match and make the best of what we can. We did save a lot of trees with this. We also planted some trees back with this project. So again, on capital project, we're going to do what we can to save trees. We're actually probably looking at coming up with some type of new detail to better illustrate what we expect contractors to do to try to stay off root zones, things like that. Whether that means putting up something around the tree. We have to determine exactly what that is. But right now, typically your contractors aren't always conscious of just driving over the road and what that can actually do to the tree. So you may not actually do any physical damage to the tree that you can see, doesn't mean you're not impacting the tree. And again, we will go through our projects and have a landscape architect follow our landscape policy on projects we do. So we'll plant new trees with the project. Now, part of that is depending on what quarter we do, depends on how much space. Just because you see an empty space out there does not mean we can actually plant a tree. You gotta remember there's stuff up above and there's stuff down below. You can't see all the time. So that's one of the things that we have to work around when we do plant trees. We have to know. So typically on a capital improvement project like Arterial Street, our consultants are working with utilities on a daily basis, monthly basis to get them relocated where they need to go. We're not going to be in conflict with our project. So they have a good idea where stuff's going. So that way they can figure out where trees go. Sometimes things change when the utilities get out there, so we have to modify it. But in general, just keep that in mind. So it doesn't mean you can't plant stuff underneath power lines, just maybe you need a different species of tree so it doesn't grow up in the power line. You see reliability that's been done, it's not always pretty. As far as the visual effect of it, sometimes it just would almost be better just cut out tree. I'm not saying that just from a visibility perspective, because they butcher something, but nobody wants to be without power too. So. This is just tree planting. This is actually in District 2. This is Greenwich, Perry and Pawnee. So you can see that we are fitting in tree. You can see we are planting trees. Our landscape architects group will review the tree plantings to make sure we're getting the right trees that we want in specific areas. We will be following our landscape policy as far as tree plantings with capital projects. Communication team has created an item on forum. You can go in there and look at the tree policy. park board presentation. And then leave comments, either snap that to go to it, or you can go to the website that's there with that. I will take questions, thoughts, concerns you have.
Thank you.
Yes, so, I'm just lucky enough to live in that 70. It's the only area in District 2 that's 17. So when I was reading through this, I saw that District 1 and District, I don't remember the other one, not 2, are the first ones that are being kind of targeted in the plan. When you guys put together your metrics, is that gonna show like the timeline to hit those other critical areas?
Yeah, so I think they go through on I think there's some of the way that they do planting, so some of it's tied to water. So what forestry has to do is, and what they're trying to get efficient with it, is that they don't want to, they try to go on kind of a rotation or where projects are happening. So they have to go and water those plants. And so it doesn't make sense all the time that you have like 2 teams to send them across town to do watering. So they are going to go through, I can't remember exactly where they are on their kind of cycle and everything, but I think it's something that we could ask and figure out exactly what's going to be next, because they do have a long-term plan on how exactly they're going to take care of it.
The other piece of it is they still have to put their request to treat plan. Now, you may be on a wait list, but that program is still out there based on what we talked to Gary the other day. That program is still out there.
I would mostly think 70 is the Eastridge Neighborhood Association, not whole square. So it's like, is that Boston Park? Is that Cottonwood Park? Is that what you guys saw little red circles around exactly where the parks were?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess one thing to note is that part of this policy too is that if you can't fit trees that were based on the landscape code, how many trees you're supposed to have in your right of way, that we have for arterial streets. If we can't fit all those in, we're not just gonna say, oops, that's too bad. We're gonna look at within a quarter of a mile, see if we can plant them around a quarter of a mile, those trees that were, let's say you needed 15 and you can't plant 3, so where does those others would go? We're gonna be looking at other places around that project, yes. And then if we can't do that, then we're gonna go look at the next census tract. So let's say I grew up well, I guess you're in District 2, but let's say it's over there closer to, what is that, Harrison over there. Let's say you're over in that neighborhood. We're gonna try to go, if we can't get within a quarter mile, we're gonna try to go to that tract 7. So it's not gonna be, we're gonna try to take the funds that were meant for that project and keep it in the same area. So we're not gonna say we can't fit those 3 trees, we're not gonna send them all the way across town and say, oops, sorry, District 2, you know, we told you we were gonna spend this much money here.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, oh, sorry. Yeah. And then on that was the tree thing, and then on what you were just talking about, the CIP for 2024, the potential CIP projects, when you're looking at 2025 capital projects, like it's sidewalks or Boston Park or riverbank improvements. I mean, along our, whatever that, would that be the neighborhood telling you? Would that be, you guys know that it needs to be done? Like, how does the neighborhood say, all of these things look great? How do you do that for this whole large area?
So I guess one other thing to note is that we're not diverting all of our like quota that we need to put in to these districts. So we're still going to be planting in parks all across. So there's like a list of like 30 parks that they're hitting across the city and still doing that stuff. So you can still make call a forester and hey, I think we should have more trees in this park, and you can still make requests in public spaces. That's a little different than like within street tree right away in front of your home or something like that. But you can make, hey, this park.
Those little islands that are in the street, they can just call and say, I want one.
I'm not sure exactly how medium.
Typically islands, we know what we're talking about, not actually the streets, but typically islands into like subdivision stuff, those are owned by the HOA. There's actually considered a reserve in that same area, that is property of the HOA, they're to maintain. you're talking about an arterial street, then those typically are something the city has put in with an arterial street project. We're trying to do things depending on what's going on.
So if it's not an HOA, it's run by the city or owned by the city?
In general, yes.
If it's under.
Okay, perfect, thank you so much.
Sam.
Questions? I'm looking down this list of trees. Now, does this put the list of trees that you're planting now on this list here?
Yeah, that's what that's our recommendation for cap improvement projects and what we're using within the city.
Yeah.
We really experiment with other trees that are not on the list, so that's kind of up to forestry to.
I don't know what all you use for evaluation, but I live in Bonnie Bray, which is right across just east of town east. And the city made a great decision of putting pear trees along there. The wind tears them up, the city, you know, you can't maintain them because they take a lot of work. That was a bad decision. And I noticed there's no pear trees on here anymore. Because that wind's terrible and I'd like to see some different trees go along there.
Yes, yeah, and that's one of the things that we're looking, so what we used was the K-State Extension Office, they have, or Sedgwick County Extension Office or through K-State, they come up with a South Central planting list, or, well, it's actually specifically for Sedgwick County. And so we take that list and we, as, and me along with forestry, went through and pared those down even more. Basically, this is based on what the city has found to be successful to maintain. Because, well, one, they don't wanna have to go through and maintain all these trees that are, you know, huge pain in the rear anyway. So I think for us trying to diversify, but also make sure that we're keeping long lasting trees in stock. So.
Yeah, I thought it was great when they planted them years ago, but it wasn't a good decision. And now to me, it looks terrible. It's just the trees are twisted and not good. Anyway.
I've got a question in the chat. If a civic organization, before I forget, it's 8 o'clock and the library is closed. So when you exit, please use this door rather than those double doors.
And I will say, when you step out, it's not well lit and you have to step down. It's probably about 2 or 3 inches, but it's not well lit. So please make sure when you open the door, kind of let your eyes acclimate and know that you're going to take a couple inches step in.
If a civic organization wanted to plant a tree on city property, who would they need to contact to seek approval?
That would be the forestry department. That's the best way to go through. Any tree issues within the right of way, they are the right people to talk to. I think that sometimes there's a misconception that if there's a street tree, as Sean mentioned, like on the other side of your sidewalk, that's your tree. It's kind of the public's tree. So city forestry maintain those trees. If you have issues with those or need it trimmed, call them in, they will get to it. If it's a large branch that's blocking the road, that's a higher priority for them than trimming trees, but do call those in because those are city maintained trees.
It's probably not a bad idea to run it by our office too, just to make sure we don't have projects that's gonna come in and potentially do something. I don't want somebody to plant a brand new tree, spend money, and then we end up coming, taking the tree out. I can't tell you we do everything we can. You look at our water main replacement projects, we're actually directional drilling the vast majority of those. So the only place you end up with holes is where they end up with bore pits from the directional drill, or where you end up with fire hydrants or blow-offs or valves or services. So you don't end up with open cut all the way through. We're taking out a bunch of trees, so.
One last question.
I understand that we have multiple pieces of property owned by the city, but they're not big enough to sell, not big enough to really make a park out of. Are these places being considered for the tree projects?
I think that we are looking at city property. So again, you know, if we can't fit it in, you know, those 3 trees that didn't have a home in this project, fortunately, we'll look at other city-owned land. So it likely is within the right of way, but they will look at other city-owned land. I think they're probably going to give priority to right of way and parks first, but that may be something that they look at as an alternative.
That was gonna be my comment. That's probably the low end of the total pool as far as your priorities go. Again, part of it comes down to heat island. So what you're wanting to do is try to cover up some of the asphalt, the concrete, so it doesn't absorb all that heat and then keep it in. So if you can do that within the right of way, parking areas, things like that, that makes a lot bigger impact than it will in an area that's just trees and grass.
There's several portions of our street, right out here for, Edgemore. And, I deliberately go out of my way to drive through that stretch because it's like you're going through an arboretum. And I can feel myself de-stress when I drive in there. So if you could make the whole city like that, that would be wonderful.
John, Tim, go.
Unlimited budget.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for this great work. Thank you
Yeah,
for the great
thank you.
discussion, the great questions. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for all you
Great
do.
project.
Yeah, great project.
I think we're all.
So item number 11, we're almost there, folks. Red Trail Improvement, something I'm very passionate and excited about. I've been working on this project with community members and then also with Public Works for more than 6 months. We had a community open house about 3 weeks ago. Yeah, and 54 community members came to provide feedback, and all of it was positive. So Sean, you want to let us know a little bit about what's going to happen?
It's pretty much gonna be the same presentation, so I will try to go through it fairly quickly. But if you have any questions at the end, I'm happy to answer them. So the section of Redbud we're talking about is between Woodlawn and K96. Give you a little bit of background. On June 6th, 2023, the city council approved an agreement with Benish to start the design concept phase of this project. On May 1st, staff submitted an application to WAMPO, which is the planning organization, if you want to receive federal funding. Any city over 50,000 has to have a planning organization. KDOT gives them federal funding that they get from the feds to just disseminate to different organizations within their area. So we submitted an application for carbon reduction funding. We got that money, or we got some of it. And then, like Councilmember Tuttle talked about, on October 26th, staff held a neighborhood meeting to discuss the project. So again, if you're not familiar with the area we're talking about, north is up on the stream, down the south, west is to the left, east is to the right. We're talking from Woodlawn to 96. If you know anything about the Red Bud, this section to the east, we completed about 3 or 4 years ago. I think it turned out fairly well. The number of people that were concerned about that project when we started was significant, and it was mainly to do with tree removal. They really liked the canopy overarching the path. And I think all I've seen after the project was completed was good comments that they really liked how we did everything possible to try to save the tree canopy along that section of the path. We'll give you a little bit of an overview of the city and bike connectivity. So north is up again, south is here, east, west. This is the section of the path that we completed about 3 or 4 years ago. You have the K96 path here. You have on-street bike lanes here. I presented this section of 17th Street to DAB1 last week for design concept that they approved. So you can see one of the missing components here is this section of Red Bud, which ties into 17th Street once you get on the west side of Oliver and those on-street bike lanes. So it's 3.5 miles of rail bed that it was rail banks. So it's currently an unimproved path. It's probably the best way to describe it. One of the issues with using it for multiple miles is the arterial street crossings. It's pretty tough, especially you get to Rock Road, you get to some of the other arterials that have a lot of traffic on, especially depending on what time of day you're doing. You kind of get cut off, or you kind of turn around, and go back the other way, or you haul tail across there when you can. Traffic volumes, just a little idea of what the current traffic volumes are in the area. And these are on the arterial streets. So Woodlawn, you're about 21,000. At Rock, you're around 30. Webb, you're around 17. And Greenwich, you're around 11,000. We don't have, so this Red Bud Trail is actually 17th Street, if 17th Street is there. We don't have traffic volumes right at this on each one of these. So typically what I'm doing is on average in the traffic volumes on the south leg of 21st Street and north leg of 13th Street. just to give you an idea of where those come from. If you look at the map and see these numbers don't match exactly what those are, that's where I got them. And I'll talk about rock a little bit, and that's part of the reason I added this slide to be able to kind of give you a little bit of a.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it goes and then stops. There we go. So this is a section of Woodlawn to rock. Top left is Woodlawn. You follow it, it goes to the east. And then you go to the bottom over on the left-hand side, and then back over to rock. One thing I'll point out right at this point, and I'll talk about in the next couple of slides, but Woodlawn currently has what's called an RRFB, rapid flash beacon. I'll show you a picture of it, but when the pedestrian or the bicyclist hit the button, there's two lights below the sign that actually flash. What we've heard from the bike community is people don't honor that very well. As far as the traveling public, they either don't know or let's just leave it with hope they don't know any better. But so we are looking at upgrading that to a Hawk system. I'll show you a picture of what Hawks looks like. We have them in different locations. One of them out west that I'm knowledgeable about is right across from Sedgwick County Park. It ties into a bike pass system there. I have not seen any complaints about it. The nice thing from the motorist perspective, if you're in a vehicle, you don't have to actually stop the whole time. It'll start flashing, and if nobody's coming, you can actually go. So you're not waiting there the whole time. If there's no need to.
There's one in Central, right,
Yep.
between, what is it?
Grow to the east about a quarter of a mile, yeah.
And there's one at WSU.
There is.
Yep.
So here's the one at Woodlawn. This is the rapid flash beacon. I don't know how well you can see it, but the lights are right here below the actual sign. And again, we're gonna take those out and upgrade those to Hawk. This is the one, more or less the 17th and Ridge Road across from Sedgwick County Park. So what happens first is the yellow comes on, flashes, that's the bottom light. Then you have a red light, the two red lights come on. And then after a certain amount of time, based on walking dynamics, that's programmed into the system, it'll start flashing. So if they've already gone through, part of the problem is, especially somebody on a bike, what you'll see is you can't even see the person, they're already down the street and you're still waiting there from the traffic perspective. So it kind of is hopefully the best of both worlds, helps out vehicular traffic being able to go through, which is clear, but it also, vehicular traffic will actually respond to these and stop much better than what they seem to do for the rapid flash beacon, at least in this area. Rock to web. So what we're looking at Rock is grade separated due to the traffic volumes we're looking at. This is what the current thought process is. And again, so you had about a third more traffic at that location than you had any other location. And that's one of the reasons we're looking to upgrade that to where it's grade separated. And I'll go through that a little bit more. One of the things I didn't point out, and if anybody has any thoughts, concerns, we do show where we think would be the best location if the neighborhood does want a sidewalk connection to this. We'll have to. It's a neighborhood. Typically, all we're going to build is what was within the old railroad right of way, and then the neighborhood would have to tie on there. They can use our contractor if they want, and work something out with contractors as part of the project. If it's a very short run and there's not much to it, we may be able to make a connection, but there's federal money from this, and that means you have to get easements and all that kind of stuff. So it's just cleaner and simpler if we just make the connection. We'll get you across if there's any drainage going through the area. We'll get you across that, because typically this rail bank is up. Then you have the issue of didn't flood the rail bed that was there. We don't have to make any of these connections. This is just locations that we thought that were pretty good. As far as where they were connecting, we didn't want to try to go between houses unless there was already something dedicated there. Some of these in newer areas, they have actually dedicated access. They didn't want to give up any more lots, so they actually put it between two houses, and there's actually dedicated right away there for it. That we worked with on the last section of Redbud. Webb, we'll zoom into it ultimately a little bit more. Webb is currently 4-lane roadway. So we're gonna make some improvements to the road to be able to add a median in that area. Webb on the left, top left, Greenwich on the bottom right. Greenwich already has an existing median. It's 5+ lanes wide. There's some extra space there. I don't know exactly if it was for a dual left potentially into that development or whether it was to offset lefts or what exactly what they're looking at with the design. We're going to modify that median a little bit to try to help out. That currently serves one business driveway. So we are shortening up the left turn lane, but based upon what we see there, we don't see any issues with it. And we have not heard from the business that there are any concerns with it either. So then again, we tie into the K-96 and the path, Red Bud path that we've recently completed a couple years ago to the east. So you tie all this connection together, which ultimately goes to Andover, which ultimately goes to Augusta. If you go the west way, actually you can go through the 96 path, you can go through on-street bike lanes, different locations, and you can get all the way out west, out of the west side of Wichita, once we get some other projects completed. They're currently under design. So Rock Road, talk about grade separation. We're looking at building bridge up and over. One of the things with this is that we would build a bridge wide enough that if they ever do widen Rock out to 5 lanes, if you look at Rock, they narrowed it down because the railroad, they didn't want to mess with the railroad when the railroad was in there. Ultimately, that's why it's configured the way it is. At some point, you may want to widen that out, make it a 5 lane so you can have some turn lanes for specifically drives like this one on the north side right here. So we're going to make the bridge wide enough. That's not a problem. We're not going to widen Rock with this project, but you also see that we're going to tie it into, if you're coming from Rock, you can jump, go back, go across, or if you want to get off of Rock, you can go down Rock Road on the sidewalk.
Can I say something real quick? So when we first started talking about this, and Bruce has made a comment, when we started, like I said, months ago, working on this, I just couldn't in good conscience get people across Rock Road, right?
Yeah.
And so we looked at bridge, we looked at a tunnel, and this seems like the best option. Working with the neighborhoods around it and trying to seek funding to make sure we can make sure it's ADA compliant, can be expanded later. But I think it's just super exciting for the community, for District 2, for Wichita, but also for the region. This is one of the projects that I hear most about that people are interested in all across the city.
Oh, yeah. More than that. But ultimately too, part of the reason, I mean, with the tunnel, the concern were existing utilities and drainage. Drainage was the biggest one. We were looking at probably having to do a pump station to be fairly to be responsible, that we didn't think it would have backup issues with like a 100-year storm. We had stuff that you probably get to grade out, but once you had a 100-year storm and you had backwater issues, what was that going to do to it? That was the concern. That's the reason we're looking at the bridge versus the tunnel. Again, I talked about Webb Road. It's currently a 4-lane. We don't want to leave it that way. You can look at the north side, you can see a taper here, so there's hatching in the middle. So what you have is it goes back out to a 5-lane. You can actually see there's a turn lane down here that is formed. So what we're looking at doing with the project is actually making this a 5-lane in this area to be able to have that median in the middle. So you could stop in the middle if you want. So we're gonna widen the section of Webb. It's about 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet long. Make it a 5-lane to be able to get that median. Greenwich, we're just modifying the existing, like I said, this is, I don't know how well you can see it, but this area right here is actually hatching, and this is the turn lane here. So you have 2 through lanes over here, 2 through lanes over here, a left turn lane, and additional width there. So we're just gonna modify that median so we don't end up with the left turn back through where the path is through. Yeah. And these are just the concepts of what we're looking at. So again, you can see we're converting this to a 5-lane, should help traffic flow too, but it also gives us this median out here with, you can look one direction, go out to the median, stop, feel fairly comfortable, and then go on the other side once the traffic clears there. And again, the modifications to Greenwich. We are looking at adding some pause points throughout the project. Some of these are probably at potentially the arterial streets. Some of them are probably mid-mile somewhere. We may, if we do some of the connections, try to put some in around some of those to make sense. Funding, the project is currently funded in the 2024-2033 CIP that's been approved. Includes 600,000 in 2024, 2.1 million in 2025, 2 million in 2026 in GO bonds. There, I also talked about the application to WAMPO. They don't know exactly how much they're gonna get, so this is still a little bit up in the air. So, but this is what they estimate we would get as far as carbon reduction funding, which is just a little bit over 2.2 million. The nice thing about that is if there are, if we get more, it goes to this project. The bad thing is if we end up being less, it's gonna come from this project unless there's other projects that don't need all their funding. But this is, that was the motion that was made, that this would be the project that, because we asked for considerably more. And part of that is to help out with some.
And there's gonna be another round of funding.
And the intent is we are still looking at different options, as far as, federal funding, outside funding to be able to do that, and that's the last bullet point here.
It's nice to see TIP money going at something besides roads and bridges.
Besides what?
Roads and bridges.
I can tell you this, we don't spend a whole lot of bridges. I think typically it's the counties that submit bridge projects, and I'm not trying to say they bad.
I'm referencing WAMP and TIP, not the city.
No, I understand. What I will tell you is we don't submit a project for the most part anymore that doesn't have bike bed in it, because if you don't, you're not gonna get money.
You know, yeah.
And that's the way it works. So whether you like it, don't like it, that's just the way it is at this point. So even the projects that are not specifically for bike ped, typically are gonna have a bike ped component of it. So we're gonna present the design concept to city council on November 21st. Looking at starting construction in late 2025. The federal money, we have to have it obligated by the fall of 2025 with that carbon reduction fund. We are.
What about the surfacing between Woodlawn all the way through to Greenwich? Is that gonna change?
Yes.
Cause there's a lot of, I mean.
We are going back, and I should have referenced this, we are going back with the section we built on the east side. So if you're aware of that, you got a 1 foot shoulder on one side, a 9 foot wide concrete path, and a 4 foot shoulder on the other side.
There's a lot of, I mean, the bridges there, and there's holes.
We will make improvements to the bridges, whether that means replacing, whether that means rehabbing, and make them pedestrian friendly, so putting on rails and things like that, so it is much more pedestrian friendly.
And the ditches will be cleaned out.
No, that just depends on where you're at and what we'll end up doing in that area.
There's trash, there's debris.
In general, no, we're not gonna do a whole lot of ditch, and some of that's to save the trees. Because typically the ditch area is where you end up with some of the trees. If there's a need, we may end up doing things in different locations, but it's not to, it's to more or less take out what we need, put the concrete in. And putting the concrete in and being done with. As far as that, we're not making a bunch of drainage improvements along there. If there's specific areas that we need to look at, these need to be addressed. Well, the concern is that you take out all the trees, if you're doing a bunch of regrading there. So it's kind of either or thing, what is it, what is the best option, what is the desire of the neighborhoods?
What about, my understanding is that there's been discussion as far as bridges over Webb and Greenwich in the future.
That's what we're looking at.
So what we're looking at now is rock is the most critical.
Right.
And then anything that we do will have the ability for expansion at Webb and Greenwich, but if we, Greenwich, if, because of cost, basically, and right now the traffic counts don't warrant the bridge at rock.
It will.
It will, but we have to take one step at a time. And if we, yeah, so this is our first step. Yeah. Which I think is super exciting.
Bridge alone is gonna cost about 2 million more than just a regular crossing, give or take a little bit. It's just that much more expensive.
Sir, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. How long, on average, is a hawk cycle, when you push the button?
I don't know that I can tell you.
Yeah, I was just curious.
And I'm guessing some of it's gonna be different based on how far you get across, just like you have with any push button, it's based on some guidelines given out as far as traffic control devices go, based on somebody's average speed of walking, so.
I have two other comments. This is the second time I've seen this plan and all I can say is yay. I'm really excited. I'm with Artie, the Andover Augusta Rail Trail Initiative. I hang out with that bunch. I just came from a toilet paper cutting at a new bathroom on the old Main Street in Andover. So that was really exciting. And to your regional statement, Becky, I mean, you know what we're doing out there. We've got the bridge funded. It'll probably start going in across the 54-400 bridge across Kellogg. Probably late next year, we hope. So, which is very exciting. And we have another bridge that's part of phase 1. Phase 2 is another bridge that takes us in over the Walnut River and into Augusta. And Josh, the city manager, showed up at that meeting 3 weeks ago with a really pretty plan for kind of a landing area, trailhead, if you will, in downtown Augusta on State Street, which is very cool. So it's all very exciting.
In my second term, this maybe one of the things I'm.
Yeah, it's cool. So
Working
thank
with
you.
staff, community members, plan.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yes.
Okay, no disrespect, because I understand you guys are all excited about this project, and I understand one of the problems that I have is that we did not get notice of this project, and I live right there, I work right there, until 3 days before the last meeting. So there was no opportunity to get people to the meeting with a 3-day notice, and I feel like I am fairly reasonably informed, and I didn't even know that it was this far along. So there's not been any input from anybody other than who you guys have reached out to. As far as I can tell, I did not get, like I said, live right there, work right there, and all the neighbors that back up to this trail were not informed until 3 days before the informational meeting.
And I'm sorry for that. Sean, can you explain the process for when we sent out the notification for the public meeting that we had, and then for tonight, and then for city council on the 21st?
So they all went out same letter. All the notifications for all 3 of those meetings went out the same letter. They were mailed out a week prior to the neighborhood meeting. They went out to anybody that backed up to this, and the HOA's involved with that.
Yeah, and then my other problem is, I do think that there are ways that this could be improved, and I know that it's too far along for me to have much input. But the Webb Road crossing is 300 feet from a full stoplight. I think it's too close. I could not find any literature where you could have that close of a crossing between the two. Because when you're coming off of being at a full stop at a stoplight and you start, you're not expecting to have another crossing that close. And if you're out walking, biking, I'm a former very big biker in town, you can go 300 feet and get around. You do not need a separate crosswalk 300 feet from a full stoplight.
Should you want to address that? Because we've talked about that.
300 foot, we don't have any concerns with what we're talking about here between the 2 different types of signals. I can tell you that what we've seen in the past, if we don't put it in, people aren't going to go up there and use it. Now, if you're somebody who can't get across for whatever reason, whether you're in a wheelchair or something like that, that you had to, they may, but the average everyday user is not going to go up there and use it. So if we don't put it in, it's going to be just a crosswalk that doesn't have any type of notification or anything. If that's what you want to go with.
Well, it doesn't have to be a crosswalk at all. And then I've been on all of our bike paths. There's a lot of bike paths where you're directed to go around and go back. And you've got mile stretches here with no interruption. And if you just have to go around and go to the stoplight and go around, I don't think that's too much to ask of people. I think you alternatively have as much problem with people not seeing these people crossing, even though you have a hawk light. You've just come from a stoplight. I know what it's like. I've been up there on those roads. People are going to Knox. They're just gonna, you start going, you're like, oh my gosh, there's a stoplight 300 feet away. I just don't think that's safe. And I know I'm not a traffic engineer, so I'm not, but I am somebody who is in that area a lot. And I think that that is not something that we had any public input on. It was something made And the public is the ones using that road, and the public is the one who is gonna get hurt.
So what we're doing, always correct me when I'm wrong, Sean, tonight at the DAB, it'll go to city council next week on the 21st. And this is just to allocate the funding for the design process. We've hired a consultant, we're working with the consultant. This isn't saying that everything is set in stone and we're moving forward. This is because we had the funding to be able to, and I was on the selection process, an RFP process for consultants to apply. And so they completed their application, we interviewed them, and then we picked bench. And now this next phase, what's being approved will be the funding to continue with the design process.
This piece is approval of the design concept. So what you saw here tonight is what we will move forward with final design. That doesn't mean we can't have any discussions about anything that needs to be discussed. But in general, this is what we're gonna move forward with on final design. We had the neighborhood meeting, we had this meeting, we had the city council meeting to address any concerns that they have.
You had the city council meeting?
It's
He's got coming.
Oh, okay.
So all three of those meetings are open to the public.
And I understand
And I
that, but
apologize if you didn't think there was enough time. You got 2 weeks to come to this, you got about 4 to go to the city council, so hopefully you can make as many of those meetings as you want to address any of your concerns. But ultimately, this is the design concept. Hopefully what they'll do tonight is approve the design concept. If there's things you want us to take a look at, we can go back and take a look at them. And hopefully, if we can't address them by city council, we can address them there shortly after, anything that you have concerns about.
and I do appreciate that, but one of my points is that it's almost too late when you're already at the final design, instead of showing people what is being planned so they can tell you, this is the way I do it. Whether you take that advice or not, you have to admit you're to the final design phase, and that is a lot further than being.
This is the drawing on an aerial map, is ultimately what this is. I don't wanna neglect what Ron and Dennis has done, but this is a drawing on an aerial map. So we haven't gone through any final design.
I'm just, that's what you guys were calling it, the final design.
That's what we move forward with, to go through a final design process once we get this approved. But that doesn't mean we can't look at things between here and there. It's not everything here is set in stone. That's why we have these meetings.
And that's why I'm here, but I would like to just say that it is hard to come to these meetings. And I've sat here for 2 hours to say 3 minutes worth of stuff. And I also think that, and I think you guys have great meetings, a lot of information, but that, it's going down to the city meeting is not easy to comment on. You have to put your name in ahead of time, you have to do it a week in advance, you have to.
First, the spending guidance, you want to put your name ahead.
Yeah.
That's what you want to speak to someone that's off the agenda, so.
But
then-
they're also during the day, and I work during the day. I mean, there's a lot of obstacles for you to set 2 meetings, one that was only a few days in notice, seriously, by the time you got your mail, it was a couple days notice. And then not having a long time to get to them.
And I gave you my email address
Yeah.
and my cell phone number.
Yeah.
If you want, I'll come to your house and have a meeting with your neighbors. We can have a phone call.
It's just that we'd like to, I mean, I know the people that have called me and talked to me, they just wanna have more input before it gets to this stage.
Are there other concerns you have other than what?
I would have had a lot more concerns, but if I'm stuck with just finding the one that's really a problem, I do think the problem is that stoplight being that close to a already set stoplight.
Might just say
intersection.
to your HOA.
Or your
Meeting.
house or whatever.
Yeah.
We will check, let's check,
Yeah.
please give me a call.
Yeah.
Thank you for being. Yes.
I have been working with Southeast High School and the Forestry Department on a tree planting project. If you would like to line Redbud Trail with several thousand redbuds, I can get you a bunch of trees for free. We are planting a bunch of them in the spring. And when I spoke with Councilmember Tuttle earlier, I gave her the baggie with 4,000 seeds in it. We're now up to 8,000. So, you know, if we get 4,000 or 5,000 of them germinate, they don't have a home yet.
Well, and ultimately, that would be our plan to add some landscaping specifically if we're taking some out in specific areas or we have areas that aren't. I'll have to get back to you, make sure I get your phone number. I have some concerns with the federal money and some of the weird stuff they have as far as us even providing stuff becomes a concern at times, so.
There's gonna be enough red buds that if you wanna put one every 10 feet, you can go
I hope so, we've not got near as many trees as we would need to be able to do that, to where we can reuse all the existing as much as possible, so we wouldn't need anything to that effect, but it doesn't mean we couldn't use some.
With this project, there should be several thousand trees of all species available for both the public and private.
Be a lot better off with it to the park department if they can use them, because they're not gonna be able to maintain saplings. And that's usually why we plant larger trees.
Actually, I've been working with Gary Ferris at the
Okay.
Parks Department on that.
Yeah.
What the high school students are doing is they're planting a bunch of trees and it's gonna be given away to homeowners. What's left over, the city Parks Department, they can decide if they wanna put them in the gravel beds, if they wanna grow them out a second year. There's potentially, there's more than enough to make up the 4,000 tree gap that the city has now between the 2,000 that we plant and the 6,000. And so it should.
It just on a project, it'll be difficult for us to maintain when they're not in the yard for those, but maybe the forestry can do it, but that's the biggest, my biggest concern on planting them on a job site like that, unless forestry.
Trying to water these would be a little bit of a challenge driving down the path.
There's no way
With a water truck, it's potentially gonna, doesn't mean we couldn't plant some of it, it's just gonna be, may have to be more strategic than just.
Well, I'm just off the top of my head, if you just get a gator or one of those small, you can up and down the paths watering. I mean, there's ways to do it. It's far enough away that none of that needs to be figured out right now.
Yeah. Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No.
James?
Thank you for that.
Yeah. My card's right there. If anybody, I'm the project manager for the project.
If you guys don't mind, catch it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll bring the discussion back.
Tom may have to leave, but I'll be around.
Any other discussion from the district advisory board? This item does require a vote. It's not just provide feedback.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Jennifer? Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion does pass. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for presenting this evening. Give me a call. Yep, I'll come and meet with y'all anytime.
Okay, we're waiting.
Thank you for waiting. Next, last agenda item is
Thank you.
consolidated plan entitlement funding, CDBG, home and ESG. Is it
And Andrew Tyree is up on the screen.
awesome? Hey, Andrew.
Hey y'all, how's it going?
Still going.
Still going. Hey, well, hey, I'm glad you're hanging in there. But
Thanks, John.
I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. See, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So, like was mentioned, my name is Andrew Tyree. I'm a management analyst with the City of Wichita's Housing and Community Services Department. And I'm joined this evening by Erica Fambrol and LaShondra Wells. They're with WFN Consulting, and we'll turn it over to them here in a little bit and they can introduce themselves. But we are here to talk with you tonight about the 2024-2029 HUD Consolidated Plan and First Program Year Action Plan. And before we get heavily into this, I kind of wanted to just run a couple things by you. What we're kind of wanting you to think about as we're giving this presentation is two specific things. One, what you feel your district, what District 2, what community needs are urgent in District 2 that you would want to see addressed in the next 5 years. And then kind of the same kind of question, but just for Wichita in general, what community needs do you feel Wichita needs can be addressed in the next 5 years as well? So we're going to be looking to get that feedback from y'all at the end of this presentation. But just first, just starting off with some background, the city receives an annual allocation of funds for community development activities from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, otherwise known as HUD. Funded activities align to the city's goal of creating a livable and sustainable community. And these funds are used to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and affordable housing. Just kind of to give you all an overview of the funds that we're talking about as we're getting more into this. The first, we receive all these funds on an annual basis from HUD. The first we're going to look at is Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG. This is by far the most flexible funding source, and it can be used for a wide variety of community development needs. The next, Home Investment Partnerships, or as we refer to it as HOME. And this is all about creating affordable housing for Wichita's. Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG. This grant is used to address homelessness.
Andrew, can you go hold so we can see your, it's really small.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, put it in slideshow mode.
I thought I did. Hold on.
It's okay. You can keep going.
If you go across, yeah, there you go.
Is that better?
That's better.
I'm sorry about that, y'all. Thought I had it thought I had it up that way. So CDBG, you'll look there at the bottom, the funding allocations, and these are for our the current program year that we're in right now, 2023, 2024. For CDBG, it's just a little under $3 million. For the home program, it's 1.7 million, and then for ESG, it's just a little over $255,000. And so when talking about, you know, the con plan, the planning process, y'all might be wondering, hey, what is a consolidated plan? So that's what we'll get into now. We'll look. So for the 5-year consolidated plan, it's a tool that helps jurisdictions assess both affordable housing and community development needs. This is in order to determine investment and spending priorities for the next 5 years. And so we're required to submit a 5-year con plan that dictates funding and spending priorities for the 3 programs that we just highlighted: CDBG, Home, and ESG. And we're also required on a yearly basis to submit what's called an annual action plan. And so for every individual year within that 5-year plan, we're required to submit an AAP, annual action plan. And basically it breaks it down by program year. So each specific year, like it says on your screen, it allocates funding amounts for specific activities for each of those 5 years. And because HUD can be a little confusing at times, the program years are a little different. So for example, the current program year that we're in, it started July 1st of 2023, and it'll run through June 30th of 2024. And so similarly with the con plan that we're talking about, that we're in the process of developing, we have to have that presented to HUD by May 15th. And so that, assuming it's approved by HUD, it'll go into effect July 1st, 2024, and it'll run through June 30th of 2029. And so right now, just kind of wanted to get into a timeline that we've been going through with this whole process, just to kind of let you know where we've been and kind of where we're at currently. So we'll throw it back to the spring and summer. In May through August, we were working through kind of the preliminary planning, putting together our calendar, as well as we were in the process of hiring the consultant. And this is something that the city, for the comp plan, we've never done before. But it is something that jurisdictions across the country do all the time. And because it is, it's a pretty complex, can be a complex, fairly technical process. It involves an extensive period of public engagement, data analysis. We decided that hiring a consultant would be a good move. And so we went with WFN Consulting, like I mentioned a few minutes ago. So that was kind of what we were doing. We're kind of in that preliminary planning through May through August. And it really started to ramp up in September. In September, we started going out to DABs. We held our first stakeholder meeting in September as well. That was when we had other, like I said, stakeholders or agencies in the community that came and kind of gave their feedback for this process. And then in October, we kept going at it pretty fast and furious. We continued with DAB presentations. We had our first in-person public forum where we invited members of the public to come and hear about the comp planning process and to give their feedback. And then we kind of wrapped up the month of October by attending the council workshop. We updated the council on kind of where we were at this point, showed them survey results. Oh, the survey, I forgot to mention that. We rolled that out in September as well. And just a little plug there, we have a couple more days for that survey to be open. So if you have not filled out the community needs assessment survey, we ask that you do that by Wednesday. And at the end of this presentation, we'll have a link for that. But when we went to city council workshop, we updated them on the current survey, what the survey was looking like at that time, and kind of where we were at in the process. So moving forward, November, we started the month of November. We had a virtual public forum where we again invited the public to attend to get their feedback, and then we're finishing up the DAB meetings with you guys tonight. And so once the survey closes on Wednesday, it's kind of looking at all the information that we gathered and actually starts to draft the consolidated plan and annual action plan. Moving forward to next year, April 2024, the public comment period begins. It will open for the 24th to 29 and 24-25 consolidated plan and annual action plan. And we'll be back at the DABs. We'll go to all 6 DABs and present. And then May, we will go to City Council for consideration and submit to HUD no later than May 15th of 2024. So next, kind of wanted to hit on just the funding sources, kind of give you guys some feedback on, or just kind of see what kind of activities have been funded during the current 5-year plan that we're under. But first, just some reminders on CDBG in case you're new to it. But in order for an activity to be eligible for CDBG funding, it must meet one of 3 national objectives. The activity or program must benefit low to moderate income persons, must prevent slum or blights, or it must address an urgent community need. And then obviously, it must be used for an eligible spending activity. And then at least 70% of spending must benefit low to moderate income persons. And just a few other considerations. There is a limit on public services, a little over 1.1 million. We are public service heavy in the city of Wichita with our CDBG funding, our programs. So keep that in mind. Funds, if we're working with another city department with CDBG funds, they have to have there needs to be a memorandum of understanding between the departments. And if we're going outside via private vendors, then there needs to be an RFP process for that. And then funds cannot be allocated to a specific provider or for an ineligible purpose.
Hey, Andrew.
Yo.
You want me to hold my question to the end or interrupt you?
Yeah. Well, we can take all questions and feedback at the end if you don't mind, Bruce.
Okay, I'll try to remember.
Thank you, sir. So for CDBG funding, in the past 5 years under the current plan that we're under, infrastructure, park improvements have taken place in low to moderate income neighborhoods, economic development, the home repair program, which is a popular program that we have. Perhaps you guys have probably heard of that. MABCD, we have an MOU with them for demolition and clearance of unsafe structures. We help fund the staffing, support operations at City Manager's Office for the Office of Community Services. That's Atwater, Evergreen, and Colvin. Housing First Program Project Coordinator. The salary for that position is funded through CDBG. Domestic Violence Shelter Services. Right now we have Stepstone, Stepstone, Wichita Family Crisis Center, and Catholic Charities Harbor House that we're partnering with for DV Shelter Services. Youth Crime Prevention and Enrichment, YMCA, Plainview, and Kansas Big Brothers Big Sisters. We currently have agreements with for their youth programming. And then training and employment. If you've ever been to City Hall in June and July, perhaps you've seen the youth workers that we have there, our TWTW program. That's where the training and employment dollars goes. And then for home funding, right now, we have home ownership activities, which include the housing development / redevelopment activities. So that's our housing development loan program. That's for new construction or rehabilitation projects. These are for owner occupancy or rental properties. We have our Home 80 program that can be a part of that as well, where there's down payments and closing cost assistance. And then we have our Community Housing Development Organization, or CHODO, set aside for housing development. At least 15% of funding, home funding, must be set aside for CHODO. And then we have administration funding there. And then lastly, we have our emergency ESG funding strategy, homeless assistance. These are your your shelters, homeless assistance, and there's a 60% cap for that, for shelter operations. Homeless prevention, which is exactly like it sounds. These are funds that are used to prevent people from becoming homeless, entering into homelessness. And that's for your like Center of Hope, Salvation Army, rent assistance, utility assistance. And then we have our rapid rehousing program for those that are homeless, but that just need just a little bit of assistance for a couple of months to get on their feet. And that's kind of what that's the services rapid rehousing provides there. And then administration costs there as well. And so lastly here, we talked about WFN, talked about back in the spring, summer, we were looking for a consultant. The funding from program year 22-23 was set aside to hire a consultant for the preparation and submission of the 24 through 29 consolidated plan. In May of 23, the search for consultant began with the release of an RFP. And in July, WFN Consulting was chosen to lead the development of the 24 through 29 consolidated plan. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over now to Erica, and she can kind of tell you a little bit more about them and the process that they're going through.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so thanks for having us this evening. Just kind of give you a brief overview of our firm. Like Andrew said, we're WFN Consulting. Our company has been providing services for HUD recipients for the last 40 years. We're experts in just managing the complexity of HUD grant programs, including the development of consolidated plans. We have many of those under our belts for jurisdictions across the country. In addition to working with the plan like consolidated plans or action plans like we're doing for the city of Wichita. In addition to that, we do training, program management for local jurisdictions. So in some of our jurisdictions, we're providing services much like the work that Andrew and Logan provides for the city of Wichita. So we do that as well. And like I said, we've worked with jurisdictions large and small across the U.S., from the East Coast to the West Coast, north to south. We've been all over, and it's really rewarding work. You can flip to the next slide. Okay, like I said, I'm Erica Fambro, and also on the call today is LaShondra Wells. She'll be taking some notes in the next portion of this meeting. I've been working with the company since 2010, so about 13 years. And I have, you know, just a number of consolidated plans under my belt. It's actually my favorite part of my job. So I'm happy to be able to work with you all and figure out what the needs are there in your city, so that we can help in preparing that plan for you. You can go to the next slide. All right, well, before we get to this community needs survey, I wanted to just get some feedback from you all. I know at the beginning of the call, Andrew asked if you all had any, if he asked you to think about just what are some of your needs there in the district, and then what are some of the needs just citywide. So I'd like to get into a bit of that discussion at this point. So essentially, we'll turn it back to you, the DAB Advisory Board, to get some feedback from you all regarding what you think the needs are. So does anybody have any comments or anything they'd like to share?
Sure do. I live in a moderately low to moderate income neighborhood. And I think the home repair program is constantly under funded and needs to have much more funding. So that we don't have to get to where we're taking down houses. There's a lot of seniors that live in the community as well that can't always maintain their properties. So I think that home repair program needs to be much more funded. I also think that the cap on Chodo and homeless assistance needs to not be the ceiling, but the floor. I'd like to see more in homeless prevention and much less in emergency funding for shelters. I know 60% is the cap, but at some point we gotta flip the curve and start focusing more on prevention than assistance. Same with the Chodo cap. There's just not enough housing that's affordable for whether it's renters or rent to buy. There's a lot of rental properties, and I'd like to see, there's a long waiting list for people looking to get into those places and not a lot of places to go. So I'd like to see a lot more funding put into Chodo to maybe help mediate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, there was a homeless shelter that here in Wichita that, if I understand it correctly, they use a warehouse building. And in the past, they provided emergency shelter for homeless. And I understand that they're not going to be able to open this year because of a fire sprinkler system code violation. Can HUD money be used to fix that?
They've already fixed it. Yeah, and we approved last week for the emergency shelter that will be at a different location. There's some other things that also were going on, but we approved that last week.
Thank you, sir. My second question is, and Andrew, you know, I've been in your meetings for years. Is there any of this HUD money? It's never earmarked for building inexpensive homeless or inexpensive housing. Is that a misunderstanding, or can some of that money be used for that?
Well, yeah. So the home program that we had talked about, that's strictly for affordable housing. So yeah. So to answer your question, yes, HUD money does go towards affordable housing and trying to provide more affordable housing to our community. So yeah, that's a big issue that looking at the survey results we've had thus far, that's a hot topic, obviously, in our community, actually in the whole country. But that's one thing that we've been seeing a lot on the survey, more affordable housing. So to answer your question, yes, HUD funding can go towards that.
Example of where we expect money in Wichita for that purpose.
Well, looking at going back here to the home funding strategy, the housing development loan program that we have going on right now, that's a program that is strictly looking for developers, landlords to come in to offer more affordable home ownership opportunities and rental opportunities. And that application is actually on our website right now for people to apply for that program. So that would be an area I would.
For the fees.
What was that?
That's for contractors, right? That's not for the people who need the houses, who need the homes.
Right.
So what happens is, what happens is the funding is used for the contractor to build the home, and then the home is sold or rented in some instances to low-income buyers. So you have to have someone to build the housing in order for it to be available for people who are meeting that low income requirement.
I understand, and I appreciate that. But I'm talking about the people who don't even meet low income qualifications that can't even rent. What do we do for them?
Well, there are opportunities for that. And if they're in a situation where they're not even able to rent, then they're probably going to benefit from something in that ESG program. Perhaps they're facing homelessness or something of that nature.
Do we have a contractor right now building any low-income housing with HUD money?
Andrew, are you aware of any developments?
There's definitely things going on, Bruce. I don't have that in front of me. I can get that to you, though, to provide you some examples of what's going on with that directly. Yeah.
Would appreciate that. You already got my email, buddy. It hasn't changed.
I sure do, man.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Anything else?
Nobody's gonna speak again, I forgot one thing. So there's only one neighborhood center in District 2, and it's Boston Park. And could funds be used to make that more of a community center and less of a recreation center under HUD funding?
I don't think so. Because I know that another district wants a community center, and they're trying to make the case for funding, but I can check.
Okay, because that first slide, I thought the very first thing said community infrastructure and park, sorry.
I'll go back.
It was the very first slide.
I can find more detail.
It was like the park and infrastructure.
Go forward, Andrew.
It was the ESG funds, I think. One more. Sorry, one more.
Keep going. Yeah,
ESG.
keep going. Keep going.
There we go.
Go back.
Memorandum.
Are you talking about this?
And one more ahead, or address urgent community needs. Yep, so that's it. I just didn't know if that's something that maybe you can check on. Because
So let me make sure I understand your question. You're asking if funding could be used to create a new community center, or to
take an existing recreation center and make it more of a community center, similar to what is in a couple other districts.
Like Evergreen.
Yes, or yeah.
Okay. Yeah, CDBG funds could be used for that. That would just be a decision on the city to decide to use that in that way. The only thing that one of the main things that CDBG cannot be used for is buildings that are for general government use. So like a city hall or something of that nature. But if it's something for a particular community, for a low income community, that's another caveat. It has to be in a low income area, primarily serving low income clients. And as long as it meets that criteria, it is eligible under CDBG. The other caveat to that is that the city would have to want and decide to use their funding in that way.
Thank you. No more
Any
questions?
other?
Nope.
Sure.
Appreciate what you guys do, always have.
Thank you, Bruce.
Any other
And,
comments?
We're not seeing any.
Okay.
The link to the survey is on the screen, so time's ticking. If you haven't filled it out.
With people, so hopefully we get a lot of response.
Yeah, we've gotten a good response so far. So if you have people in your community that would like to participate, please share the link with them. There's a few Facebook posts out there, so I'm sure if you go to the city's Facebook page, you'll be able to locate that survey easily for people to be able to, it's also on the website as well. So they'll be able to complete and provide their input. That's a really good way for us to get feedback about the needs in the community so that we can have a plan that's reflective of needs that the residents deem necessary.
Thank you to Andrew and Erica and LaShonda for hanging with us till the very end. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
y'all.
Y'all enjoy your day or your evening.
And thank you all.
Hey, I got a couple things, Becky, real quick. First, I didn't know when to bring these in. I went down to the convention center. The parking down there with the credit card, that is terrible. People were complaining. There's no signs of how much it costs you to park. You just go to flip your credit card and let them take what they want, I guess. But there was a lot of comments, and I thought that was a very negative one, which because a lot of people at this convention were from out of town, and some of them got tickets, and so I've got like a $60 ticket. So I think somebody needs to do something about a better signage or something.
Okay.
And the other one thing, since the election's over, I'd like to see them come back with another sign ordinance to keep people from just putting bankruptcy signs and stuff on the corner. I think we really need that. It makes our city look so trashy.
Yeah, your signs are the bane of my existence, trust me, but when we updated our recent sign ordinance, it was to get in compliance with the state law. Because the state sent us official notification that we were not in compliance with the state law, so.
That is crazy. I hate to say it, that
No.
is.
I
That
don't
just,
think I don't think many would disagree, but we had, so the one thing
how do
that
we
the
change the state law then? I think that is, I just think it looks trashy.
Put it on the county, put it on the city's lobby
I don't know.
agenda.
Anyway, that's just my two things.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Anything else for the good of the group? Thank you for hanging in there, everyone. Truly appreciate it. Jennifer and Chris, thank you for hanging in there with us. Mr. Jim, thank you for
Yep,
being
thanks.
here for Rockstar. Appreciate it. Next meeting is December 11th. I don't see you before then. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Second. All those in favor say
I
aye.
didn't get to make my move.
All right.
Thank you all. Bye, Chris. Bye, Jennifer.
Bye.
Yes.